Chapter 31. Yes. Su Junmo bowed and accepted the order. He could hear the killing intent in the white-robed man's voice. This was something that had not happened for many years. Even for him, his back was drenched in cold sweat. Su Junmo originally had many questions to ask, but now he stood silently and did not dare to speak for a long time. Until the air above the floating island distorted, and a man in bronze armor seemed to walk out of the void. The man looked to be in his 40s, and there was a scar on the right side of his face. It extended from the corner of his eye and covered half of his face. He had a short beard on his square jaw. Although his facial features were not bad, the scar made him look a little fierce. He walked toward the white-robed man. Su Junmo, who was standing at the side, subconsciously took a step back. He felt that he could smell the lingering smell of blood on the man. The closer the man was, the more the smell of blood mixed with killing intent assaulted him, making him uncomfortable. "Master." The middle-aged man knelt on one knee and bowed. "How is it?" The white-robed man gestured for him to get up. "The demon realm is now divided, and everyone is fighting for themselves. They are afraid of you, so no matter how fierce the battle is, they will split up. We are trapped in the seven heavens domain, the furthest from the 3,000 worlds, and cannot break out for the time being." The white-robed man's lips curled into a sarcastic smile. "Spread the news that I was seriously injured and fell into the Starfall Sea. My whereabouts are unknown, and I will give up the fight for the Demon Lord position." "My lord." Su Junmo turned pale with fright and blurted out to dissuade him. "Yes." The middle-aged man bowed and replied calmly. "Nai Hong you." Su Junmo did not dare to question the white-robed man, so he could only give Nai Hongyu a look. The position of the Demon Lord was too important. If it was taken by someone else, the consequences would be unimaginable. Master has his own considerations. Nai Hongyu glanced at Su Junmo and said lightly, "I will take my leave." He bowed to the white-robed man again, then turned and left the floating island. The smell of blood in the air gradually dissipated as Nai Hongyu left. Su Junmo did not dare to speak carelessly. He stood respectfully below the white-robed man. "After you go to the eastern border, help me investigate a person." The white-robed man pondered for a moment. "Cool Breeze Valley, Meng Chi." "Yes." Su Junmo quickly searched for the name in his mind. He had been in the 3,000 worlds for a long time and was very familiar with the powerful cultivators here. He had never heard of the name Meng Chi before. And Cool Breeze Valley, what the hell was that? It wasn't Su Junmo's fault. If the white-robed man mentioned Chu Tianfeng, Burning Heaven Palace, Zunyang, or even Qin Xiumo, he knew everything. Clearwind Valley was really too small. It was so small that other than the residents of Clearwind Town, many of the cultivators in the eastern border had never heard of this sect. "You may leave," the white-robed man said with a wave of his sleeve. "I'll take my leave." Su Junmo was full of doubts as he turned to leave the floating island at the highest point of the realm beyond Avalon. He stepped into the teleportation array and appeared outside the Xian auction house in the next moment. In the past few days, the Xian auction house had unexpectedly become lively. Ever since the medical cultivator named Xiao Qi had auctioned off a bottle of Dark North pills at a high price, there had been a constant stream of people coming here to inquire about Xiao Qi. The staff of the Xian auction house mentioned it to Su Junmo several times. Of course, they couldn't reveal the information of the owner of the auction item. This was absolutely confidential in the realm beyond Avalon. Even if they used the realm beyond Avalon to send items, the sender didn't know where their items were going. The staff of the realm beyond Avalon relied on the spiritual sense imprints left behind by the buyer and seller to determine the destination of the item. In other words, from the purchase to the sale, and then to the transaction. There were different people involved in the whole process to absolutely guarantee the privacy of the seller and the buyer. Everyone who came to the realm beyond Avalon was clear about this. But even so, those people, especially those sects that specialized in medical cultivators, or those large sects, they simply sent people to stay in the Xian auction house for a long time. Although the realm beyond Avalon absolutely guaranteed the privacy of the buyer and seller, if both parties were willing to exchange information, then it wasn't within their jurisdiction. As soon as Su Junmo stepped into the floating island where the Shen auction house was located, he immediately felt more than 20 different gazes directed at him. After discovering that it was him, their eyes were filled with undisguised disappointment. Su Junmo, he almost laughed out of anger. Since when did seeing her become such a disappointment? Moreover, did these people know who was the one who refined those Dark North pills? Su Junmo later asked Xue Jinwen. The medical cultivator named Little Chi didn't reveal her identity. Even Xue Jinwen and Xiong Linmo, who had dealt with her before, didn't know her origin. These people from the large sects had never even seen her before. Even if Little Chi stood in front of them at this moment, they wouldn't be able to recognize her as the refiner of the Dark North pills. What was there to guard? Su Junmo sneered and curled his lips. He ignored the people who were guarding the Shen auction house and walked toward Xue Jinwen's place. Su Junmo was also a little curious about Little Chi's identity, but he also knew that Xue Jinwen and Xiong Linmo wouldn't tell him what she looked like. Moreover, Little Chi used a different appearance in the realm beyond Avalon. Perhaps it was completely different from her appearance in the Trichilia Chasm, which was also allowed by the realm beyond Avalon. So what the hell was there to guard? Su Junmo fiercely despised the large sects who were trying to guard the tree stump and wait for the rabbit to appear. Xue Jinwen. He knocked on the door and crossed his arms in front of his chest. Last time, you asked me when I would go to the east border. I'm going now. Oh. Xue Jinwen looked up at Su Junmo. The man stood tall with a smile in his eyes and leaned lazily against the door. His handsome appearance had attracted the souls of countless female cultivators. Xue Jinwen's expression was normal, and there was no trace of the shyness she had when she mentioned Su Junmo in front of Meng Qi. Make a list of the things you wanted last time. I'll bring them back for you when I see them, Su Junmo said again. Thank you, fellow Daoist Su. Xue Jinwen obviously didn't expect him to go to the east border so soon. Please wait a moment. She took out a bamboo slip and slowly wrote down what she needed. In fact, some things could be found in the realm beyond Avalon with some effort. However, she still wrote down every stroke on the bamboo slip and handed it to Su Junmo personally. Su Junmo glanced at it casually and threw the bamboo slip back to Xue Jinwen. I won't come to say goodbye to you. The last time I went to your house, I only saw your elder sister and younger sister. Your father said that you rarely see guests, so I didn't disturb you. We'll meet again in the future. When I find these things, I'll naturally have someone bring them to you. He waved at Xue Jinwen and turned to walk away. Hey! Xue Jinwen hurriedly chased after him. She had just reached the door when Su Junmo's back was already outside the courtyard. Her charming eyes finally became a little dim, and she stared at Su Junmo's back as he walked further and further away. When did Su Junmo go to the Xue clan last time? She didn't know at all. But it was true. Her father always doted on her elder sister and younger sister, and felt that they were more like children of the Xue clan. When entertaining important guests, he was always more willing to let them go out to meet guests. Forget it. Xue Jinwen returned to the table and sat down. If she stayed here, she could see him at least once every 1 or 2 months. A cultivator's life was long, and it was still very long. She refocused and began to read the bamboo slip that she was halfway through. The Shen auction house in Beyond Heaven had been very lively recently, but this didn't affect Xue Jinwen at all. She knew who these people were here for, but no one who worked for Beyond Heaven would sell out the seller or the buyer's information. Moreover, Xue Jinwen herself didn't know where the mysterious Little Chi came from. Meng Qi, Chu Tianfeng, and Qin Shemo had been wandering around the mountain forest for 3 whole days. Although the 5 elements green crane was common, it was still a type of bird after all, and it wasn't easy to encounter it. How long will it take for them to get worse? On the 4th day, the 3 of them set out to continue looking for the 5 elements green crane. Chu Tianfeng couldn't help but ask, if we can't find it, will they already? About half a month. Meng Qi said, we have to hurry. Qin Shemo followed behind her. In the past few days, they were looking for the 5 elements green crane in the mountain forest during the day, and Meng Qi also took the time to comb his spiritual aura at night. The last time she went to the bottom of the cold pond, She picked enough Flo's Areocoli to last for about 10 days. However, without the help of the cold pond water, the effect was weaker. Meng Qi didn't feel that it was hard for her. It was very useful to use Qin Shumo to increase the proficiency of the meditation technique. Every time Chu Tianfeng was guarding beside her, he gritted his teeth. Looking at her sweaty and exhausted appearance, he couldn't help but criticize Qin Shumo. Although the combination of the three of them traveling together was a bit strange, it wasn't lonely at all. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Shumo seemed to be united, but they didn't like each other at all. The whole journey was noisy, and Meng Qi sometimes had the illusion that she was with a noisy fox again. However, after a few days of hard work, Qin Shumo had recovered his golden core cultivation. He hadn't recovered to his peak, and he didn't look like a cripple like before. The progress would be very slow. To completely cure him, other than needing time, it also needed the help of medicinal herbs. I feel that today is a bit strange. Seeing the sun set in the west again, Chu Tianfeng stopped walking and looked around warily. This place is close to the Yarrow world. Usually, Xiuzhe don't come here. There should be a lot of strange beasts and birds. We've walked for 4 days. 2 days ago, we encountered strange beasts, but since yesterday, we haven't even seen a living bird. Qin Shumo had also discovered this. He and Chu Tianfeng argued, but at this time, they moved closer to Meng Qi, protecting her between the two of them. The mountain forest rose and fell, and there was no end in sight. Other than the sound of the wind blowing through the leaves, they couldn't hear anything else. The sounds of birds and insects that could be heard in the forest were absent here. This almost strange silence made Meng Qi wary. She flipped her hand, and a silver medicine knife appeared in her hand. In her other hand, she held a small handful of medicinal powder. Another gust of wind blew, and there seemed to be soft laughter among the rustling leaves. The wind passed, and the surroundings should have become quiet again. A rustling sound came from the forest around Meng Qi. There seemed to be something swimming towards them from the fallen leaves on the ground. The three people looked at each other. This sound was like a snake slithering on the ground, and caused a hint of surprise to appear in their eyes. With a soft bang, Chu Tianfeng made a spell with a snap of his fingers, and moved first. A circle of blue flames appeared around them, and turned into a tall wall of flames, completely surrounding the three people. "Careful," Chu Tianfeng said in a low voice. Qin Shumo's fingers flicked, and his life-bond longsword appeared. It floated above Meng Qi's head, protecting her under the sword. "Don't move," Qin Shumo also said. He cultivated both swordsmanship and swordsmanship at the foundation establishment stage. Now, his life-bond longsword was somewhat connected to his mind. As soon as it came out, it automatically did what he wanted to do most. Meng Qi looked around. She suddenly bent down, holding the silver medicine knife, and drew a formation on the ground. Her movements were very skillful, and in just a moment, she drew 3 formations along the blue flame circle set by Chu Tianfeng. Meng Qi was rich now. Without thinking, she flicked out 18 6-stage spirit stones and embedded them in the 3 formations. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Shumo were dazzled by her bold actions. They were all genius disciples cultivated by large sects with concentrated resources. Their status was noble, and they naturally didn't lack money. 6-stage spirit stones were considered a lot of wealth even for ordinary disciples of large sects. Especially Chu Tianfeng, when he thought of his own life, it wasn't even as valuable as these formations. He wanted to vomit blood. Meng Qi didn't pay attention to the two's thoughts. She continued to take out several large and small porcelain bottles from her bracelet storage bag and began to pour different medicinal powders into the formations. SLK. The original blue flame wall gradually began to change. The blue gradually became lighter and lighter, and in the end, the entire blue flame wall turned into white flames. It looked a bit mysterious. Hee. Laughter sounded again. "Do you think you can deal with my young master like this?" In the surrounding dense forest, 12 young women in bright red dresses slowly walked out and surrounded the 3 of them from all directions. Meng Qi looked at them. The women's figures were extremely graceful, and their faces were all charming. Compared to the dresses often worn by female cultivators, Their clothes were much more bold and unrestrained, revealing their honey-colored waists, slender arms, and straight legs. They're demon cultivators. Chu Tianfeng looked at the 12 beautiful and charming women with fear. He took a step closer to Meng Qi and said in a low voice, "If there's a chance later, don't worry about us and go first." Those women probably heard his words, and at this time, they couldn't help but giggle. On the ground in front of them, under the thick layer of fallen leaves, the rustling sound was incessant and getting louder and louder. 12 green vines suddenly raised their heads together like 12 ferocious poisonous snakes, pointing at Meng Qi and the others. On each vine, there were 7 beautiful yellow flowers blooming. "Divine devouring vine," Chu Tianfeng and Qin Shemo blurted out at the same time. "Crimson Fox Clan?" Meng Qi's gaze fell on the faces of the 12 beautiful women. She coughed lightly and reminded Chu Tianfeng and Qin Shemo, "Be careful." Chu Tianfeng didn't have time to ask why. Suddenly, a sweet floral fragrance came from the air. He only felt dizzy and almost couldn't stand steadily. Qin Shemo was about the same. Both of them shook their heads and looked around in surprise. The Crimson Fox girls who were wearing skimpy clothes and revealing their beautiful figures suddenly began to dance. Soft waists, coquettish faces, and their slender and straight legs. And from time to time, silvery bell-like, seemingly soul-stirring laughter sounded. In just a moment, Chu Tianfeng and Qin Shemo felt their mouths and tongues go dry, and their bodies seemed to heat up. Cold laughter came from behind one of the girls. A young man wearing a luxurious cloak walked out slowly. "Human cultivators are nothing more than this." The corners of his lips curled up, and he smiled sarcastically. "They're yours." "Thank you, young master." The girls giggled. As for her, his gaze fell on Meng Qi as if he was already looking at his own possession. "I haven't tasted a human female cultivator yet. It's just right." The man suddenly looked at the medicine knife in Meng Qi's hand in bewilderment and looked at the pattern on it. "This is," his gaze flickered. "How did you get this thing?" Chapter 32. Which one are you talking about? Meng Qi tilted her head innocently as she looked at the male dressed in dark green robes and a cape. These Crimson Fox females called him young master, so he should be from the Sky Yarrow Crimson Fox clan. The male's features were cold and handsome. Like the females, his appearance was outstanding. However, his eyes seemed to have been dipped in poison. Under the contrast of his dark green robe, they appeared even colder. Young Master Crimson Fox looked at Meng Qi and couldn't help but smile. When he spoke again, his voice was much gentler than before. "Tell me, and then come back with me. I will treat you well." Meng Qi looked very young, just 17 or 18 years old. Her slightly tilted head seemed to have a hint of childishness and innocence. Young Master Crimson Fox looked at her clear eyes and his heart moved slightly. His voice became even gentler. "Who gave you that silver knife?" "This." Meng Qi flipped her wrist and revealed the silver medicine knife. "Yes." Young Master Crimson Fox nodded, a smile on his face. He was much gentler than when he spoke to Chu Tianfeng and Qin Shemo. "Who gave it to you?" He did not recognize the patterns on the medicine knife, but it was a formation unique to the Yarrow world. There were Shouja in the 3,000 worlds who studied formations. Supposedly, tens of thousands of years ago, the human, Yarrow, and Mo worlds did not have such clear boundaries. But there were many differences after the passage of time. Young Master Crimson Fox was a noble of the Sky Yarrow Team 1 and was knowledgeable. He recognized at a glance that the formation drawn on the medicine knife in this young female's hand was exquisite and complex, very much in the style of the Yarrow world. A hint of puzzlement flashed through his eyes. Such a young and cute young female was holding something like this in her hand. Or was she the disciple of a Sky Yarrow elder? This was not something that had never happened before. Young Master Crimson Fox's voice became even gentler. "Did the person who gave you the silver knife tell you how to use the formation on it?" "This." Meng Qi tilted her head again. Young Master Crimson Fox had the Crimson Fox female's leave. He took 2 steps forward and looked warily at the white flame that surrounded Meng Qi and the others. He didn't know what it was, but the strange white flame still made him quite wary. "Come here." Young Master Scarlet Fox stood 6 or 7 steps away from the flames and extended a hand towards Meng-Chi. "I'll tell you." "Sure." Meng-Chi smiled sweetly and walked out of the white flame with the medicine knife. Young Master Scarlet Fox's lips curled into a smile. As soon as Meng-Chi stepped out of the range of the flames, he would, Before young Master Scarlet Fox could finish his thought, he suddenly exclaimed and retreated hastily. It turned out that at the moment when Meng-Chi seemed to be walking out of the flame circle, she stepped on the array that she had just drawn with her own hands. The spiritual energy contained in 18 6th-grade spiritual stones was enough to replenish all the spiritual energy of 18 practitioners who had just stepped into the Dongshu realm. With so many spirit stones providing spirit chi for the formation, the explosive power was astonishing. White flames shot towards young Master Scarlet Fox. In the blink of an eye, more than half of the fur on his luxurious cloak was burned away. "How dare you!" Young Master Scarlet Fox retreated hastily and finally left the range of the flames. However, the Scarlet Fox girls who came with him weren't so lucky. The medicinal powder that Meng-Chi had poured into the array was the same as the medicinal powder that caused Lu Qingran to suffer a great loss in the defensive array. The Scarlet Fox girls were caught off guard and the flames swept past them. The damage caused by the flames was limited, but in just an instant, the 3 Scarlet Fox girls who were swept by the flames all cried out in shock. They covered their faces and felt that their faces and necks had become itchy and painful in an instant. Even their exposed arms and legs felt as if countless mosquitoes were madly sucking their blood, or as if countless ants were gnawing on their skin. The pain and itch were unbearable. Young Master Scarlet Fox was also in a sorry state. However, his cultivation was much higher than those girls. He waved his hand and was about to disperse the medicinal powder on his face. A string of flames had already pounced in front of him. Immediately after, a gleaming long sword pierced through the air and pointed at young Master Scarlet Fox's forehead. He snorted coldly and waved his sleeve. The 12 balls of flames that Chu Tianfeng had shot out were instantly extinguished. Young Master Scarlet Fox turned sideways and flicked his fingers, fearlessly facing Qin Shoumo's long sword. His slender fingers accurately flicked the tip of the sword. Meng-Chi and the others heard a soft dang. Qin Shoumo's life-bond long sword flew crookedly to the side. 4th grade Yarrow Xiu? Chu Tianfeng and Qin Shoumo's expressions suddenly changed. 4th grade Yarrow Xiu, that was equivalent to a Yuanying Xiuzhe. He and Qin Shoumo were both Jindan Xiu. Qin Shoumo was still possessed and could only count as half a Jindan Xiu. Even if Qin Shoumo was unharmed, the two of them probably didn't have much chance of winning against this young Master Scarlet Fox. The difference between each great realm of a Xiuzhe was not as simple as 1 + 1. A Yuanying Xiu didn't even need to use his full power to deal with 2 Jindan Xiu. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Shoumo looked at each other. The two instantly decided that no matter what, they had to let Meng-Chi escape. If she landed in the hands of this young Master Scarlet Fox who didn't look like a good person and was leading 12 young girls by himself, nothing good would happen. At this moment, young Master Scarlet Fox had already raised his arm with a sinister smile. With a soft whoosh, a dark blue vine landed in his hand. The vine seemed to be alive as it leapt towards Meng-Chi and the others with its head held high. There were 8 flowers on it, all of the petals were light green. This was even more powerful than the weapons in the hands of the Scarlet Fox girls. A divine devouring vine with yellow flowers would only turn to this light green after 100 years of growth. The light green flowers looked simple, elegant, and adorable. Who would have thought that this was one of the most vicious weapons in the Yarrow realm? Even the demon cultivators themselves were rather wary of it. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Shoumo stepped forward side by side, protecting Meng-Chi behind them. The divine devouring vine rushed to the outside of the flames, but it seemed to be a little wary and didn't immediately attack. It seemed to have a spiritual consciousness. It cautiously touched the flame and then quickly retreated. The divine devouring vine didn't forcefully break through the white flame barrier. Instead, it laid on the ground like a snake and raised its head to face Meng-Chi and the others. Young Master Scarlet Fox sneered and stepped forward. Apart from the divine devouring vine, his own cultivation level was not low either. He flipped his wrist, and a paper fan appeared in his hand. With a whoosh, young Master Scarlet Fox opened the paper fan. There was also a seductive beauty drawn on the fan, lying seductively on the couch. He waved his hand, and a gust of wind swept up, carrying gravel and fallen leaves towards the white flame. Chu Tianfeng's right hand clenched slightly, and the white flame shot towards young Master Scarlet Fox like a dense cluster of arrows. Unfortunately, those flames were unable to withstand a single blow from the gust of wind. This was the difference between cultivators who were a major realm apart. Meng Qi had guessed that the other party would not be easy to deal with. That was why she purposely did that, to think of a way to catch him off guard. But who knew that this young Master Scarlet Fox was actually more powerful than she had imagined? It was said that the barrier between the Yarrow realm, the demon realm, and the Trichilia chasm was extremely harmful to demon cultivators and fiendish cultivators above rank 4. It was very difficult for them to cross the barrier. Those who could sneak past the barrier were at most rank 4 demon cultivators. Thus, the team that the Burning Sky Palace sent to reinforce Cool Breeze Valley was also led by Elder Zun Yang, a nascent soul cultivator. His perfected nascent soul was enough to deal with all the demon cultivators and fiendish cultivators that crossed the barrier. Meng Qi originally thought that Elder Zun Yang was holding back the main force, and she could just come with Chu Tianfeng and the others to find the 5 elements green crane. FQXSW. Or who knew that the other party would actually follow them directly. He even followed them for 3 days and made sure that they did not have time to ask Elder Zun Yang for help before taking action. This fellow was really cunning and vigilant. As for these Scarlet Fox girls who also had divine devouring vines, they must be the demon cultivators that had injured her senior sisters and senior brothers. The flames that were protecting them were about to be extinguished by the strong wind. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiumor looked at each other again. The Burning Sky Palace had their own life-saving methods, but they would not use them easily because they would cause great damage to the body. Presumably, Qin Xiumor also had one. The two of them quickly exchanged a look and were about to take out their final methods to defend against the enemy. Suddenly, there was a slight sound of something breaking through the air. A clear voice came from afar. "Sikong Yang, you stupid fellow, why didn't the demon realm barrier swallow you? You actually dared to bring the divine devouring vines across the barrier. You are finished. You are completely finished. Master is furious and has already given the order to kill. TSK, TSK, TSK. You didn't hear Master's tone when he was tricked. If you did, I'm afraid you would already be. Hey. There are still cultivators here." When that voice first sounded, it was clearly still very far away. At the end of his sentence, the white figure had already landed on the treetop closest to the Scarlet Fox girls. The wind blew the leaves, and the man's slender white figure moved up and down along with the tree branches. He looked a little shaky, but he did not fall from the treetop. The moment Meng Qi heard the voice, she knew who it was. Other than the talkative fox Su Junmo, she had never seen a cultivator with such a high cultivation level and so noisy. Su Junmo had already jumped down from the treetop. His movements were simply too fast, and when the voice just sounded, the strong wind that the Scarlet Fox Prince, Sikong Yang, sent out was still unable to extinguish the wall of flames. He landed in a flash, and his long sleeves fluttered, but Su Junmo did not do anything. That strong wind dissipated into nothingness. Su Junmo. Sikong Yang gritted his teeth and looked at the white-clothed man. "You spoiled my plans again, ha." Su Junmo crossed his arms in front of his chest. "Didn't you hear what I said just now?" His gaze turned cold, and he looked at Sikong Yang, and said word by word, "Master has already given you the order to kill. You. Finished. Sikong Yang panicked for a moment. But he quickly reacted. "Don't think that I don't know, Qing, that person's whereabouts are unknown, and he said that he can't even protect himself. You guys are already in a mess, how can you care about me?" Su Junmo sneered. "Oh. Since you said that Master's whereabouts are unknown, then do you dare to be a little louder, a little bolder, call out Master's name, and repeat what you said just now?" He He looked disdainfully at Sikong Yang's pale face, raised his chin, and said sternly, "I don't dare." "Just shut up," Su Junmo said as he took a step back, and glanced sideways at the circle of white flames. The flames surrounded the 3 practitioners from the 3,000 worlds, and Su Junmo didn't care at first. He came to kill Sikong Yang, and saved the 3 practitioners along the way, which could be considered a merit. Hey! Su Junmo suddenly turned his head, and looked at Meng Qi, who was standing in the middle of the 3. This. Wasn't this the practitioner Little Qi, who was with Xue Jinwen outside the Tianqian auction house? Why was she here? Su Junmo's eyes flashed. A practitioner in the Qi refining stage? Chapter 33. Su Junmo thought that he had seen wrongly and stared at Meng Qi again. That's right, it was this face. She looked very delicate and always had a cold and aloof appearance. When he met her outside the Xian auction house that day, this girl's expression was the same as now. And she was indeed a cultivator in the Qi refining stage. When Su Junmo saw Meng Qi in Sky Beyond Heaven, he felt that she looked a little young. However, Sky Beyond Heaven allowed cultivators to change their appearance. Many cultivators would buy an appearance-changing pill after entering Sky Beyond Heaven to change their appearance to their liking. Of course, there were also cultivators who were willing to keep their original appearance. Therefore, Su Junmo had a preconceived notion that the cultivator called Little Qi by Xue Jinwen, who was good at refining medicine and had a delicate mind, was likely to be a disciple of a hidden sect. She looked like a 17 or 18-year-old girl, but she used the appearance-changing pill to change her appearance. He didn't expect it. Su Junmo was caught off guard and was really shocked when he saw Meng Qi's face here. Was it her? Then the Dark North pill? No. How did a cultivator in the Qi refining stage go to Sky Beyond Heaven? Even the most talented disciples in large sects generally had to be in the gold core stage to be qualified to enter that place. Did he recognize the wrong person? Su Junmo looked at Meng Qi suspiciously. What a coincidence, a very powerful disciple of a medical cultivation sect disguised as her and went to Sky Beyond Heaven to cause a sensation. He usually talked a lot, and his thoughts turned very quickly. In the blink of an eye, countless thoughts flashed through Su Junmo's mind. In the eyes of others, it was just a flash of surprise on his face. You! Su Junmo stepped toward Meng Qi and the others. He stopped in front of the white flame. His gaze quickly swept across the circle of white flame, and then looked at Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiumo, who were protecting Meng Qi on both sides. The 2 of them also happened to be looking at him with complicated expressions. This is... Su Junmo's eyes first fell on the silver medicine knife in Meng Qi's hand. He was startled, and a look of horror flashed across his face. Who refined this saber for you? Meng Qi. This was the medicine knife that she had refined herself after her rebirth according to the method her teacher had taught her. Now, it was just one realm, and it looked very crude. The biggest advantage of this medicine knife was that it could grow along with her cultivation. Even if he had grown to the 3rd or 4th level, he should not have surprised young Master Scarlet Fox and Su Junmo so much. She tilted her head and glanced at Chu Tianfeng. She thought of the white-robed man who looked very much like her master that had appeared on the light screen. True monarch White Tiger? Meng Qi silently repeated these words in his heart. Su Junmo was a heavenly fey aristocrat. This young Master Scarlet Fox, Sikong Yang, obviously had an extraordinary background as well. The 2 of them asked about her medicine knife at the same time. So, could it be that her master was really related to the Fey realm? Meng Qi's expression did not change. He said, I picked it up. Su Junmo, Sikong Yang, do we look so gullible? Su Junmo coughed softly. He vaguely felt that things were getting a little complicated. He took another step forward. The white flames seemed to exist in vain in his eyes. He took a step forward and was about to enter the flames. Fellow Daoist, be careful. Meng Qi hurriedly reminded him. Wu, a cluster of light green medicinal powder suddenly covered the sky and scattered toward him. Su Junmo suddenly rose from the ground. His body flew up rapidly. His reaction was fast, but he still let out a muffled groan. His entire body was enveloped by the light green mist. Hiss! In the blink of an eye, Su Junmo's face and neck began to itch. His originally smooth and handsome face was instantly covered in dense red spots. Itch, 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 the noisy big white fox complained with a few more words than an ordinary person. Meng Qi thought silently in his heart. Antidote, antidote, give me the antidote. Su Junmo suddenly flew up and quickly landed on the ground. He knew that he could not scratch it, but the itch seemed to drill into his flesh and blood in an instant. Even his bones were itching. Antidote, antidote, Su Junmo desperately urged. Fellow Daoist, we are also considered to be on the same side. That guy is your opponent. Hiss, what is this thing so powerful? It's itchy, itchy, and painful. It's painful and itchy. What is this? Meng Qi, of course, he knew that Su Junmo was not a bad person. Although he was a demon cultivator, he had always been on good terms with cultivators. He had a wide circle of friends in the 3,000 worlds. Many disciples of large sects were his friends. After his identity was exposed, no one wanted to hurt him. This Dharma array was not used to deal with Su Junmo, anyway. Meng Qi had already guessed that she, Chu Tianfeng, and Qin Shomor would not be able to stop young Master Scarlet Fox now. Therefore, other than strengthening Chu Tianfeng's defensive Dharma art, the Dharma array itself was linked. The 3 Dharma arrays formed a new Dharma array. Once someone stepped into it, they would be injured by the powder. Sikong Yang must have been at his proudest and most careless when he had just broken through the fire defense. As long as he stepped into it, the powder would not kill him. But it could make his whole body itch and hurt, giving Meng Qi and the others a chance to escape. They did not expect that Su Junmo would appear halfway and get poisoned instead of Sikong Yang. Ha ha ha. After Su Junmo appeared and said those words, young Master Scarlet Fox stood at the side in shock and did not dare to move. Now that he saw him in such a sorry state, he laughed and waved his divine devouring vine toward the 4 of them again. Su Junmo, go and die. The green vine suddenly raised its head as if it was a poisonous snake that had seen its favorite prey. It was so excited that it trembled slightly and pounced toward Su Junmo impatiently. Even the soft petals of the green flowers on the vine were trembling slightly. Be careful. Meng Qi hurriedly took out the antidote from her bracelet and threw it to Su Junmo. Young Master Scarlet Fox's back was facing Sikong Yang. Just now, he was covering his face and screaming about how itchy and painful it was. But now, he was blinking at Meng Qi. It was just that the red spots on his face were too horrible to look at. When he made this expression, he was still grimacing in pain. It was very funny. Su Junmo had already taken the antidote and stuffed it into his mouth without hesitation. The divine devouring vine was already behind him. He quickly flew up again. Su Junmo chuckled and turned around in midair in a carefree manner. A clear light fell from his hand. The divine devouring vine that was trembling with excitement just now seemed to have seen the most terrifying thing in the world. The whole vine froze on the spot. The clear light enveloped the whole divine devouring vine. Sikong Yang, who was rushing up, was shocked. He wanted to stop, but it was already too late. I told you before. Su Junmo sneered and looked down at him. My lord has issued a kill order to anyone who dares to bring a divine devouring vine across the border. Did you forget? Before a new demon lord appears, the demon realm will respect the lord's order. In the clear light, the divine devouring vine that was rushing toward Su Junmo suddenly turned around slowly. The vine was raised high as if it was really imbued with the aura of a demon lord. It coldly faced Sikong Yang's direction. No. Sikong Yang, who was still arrogant just now as if everything was under his control, suddenly turned around and ran. Go. Su Junmo ordered coldly. That divine devouring vine quickly jumped up and pounced toward its former owner. Ah! In just a moment, it had wrapped around Sikong Yang's leg. The coarse vine instantly whipped his leg, and blood instantly soaked his robe. Ah! Sikong Yang screamed. The Crimson Fox race knew better than anyone else how terrifying the divine devouring vine was. He seemed to have lost all his strength. He knew that even if he died now, he would still be turned into nourishment by this terrifying demon, and his body would become nourishment for the growth of a new divine devouring vine. Also, his divine devouring vine already had a certain level of divine consciousness. It could even use his body to grow new vines and control him to become a puppet. Save me. Save me. Sikong Yang shuddered at the thought of that scene. He desperately rolled on the ground. However, the divine devouring vine ruthlessly wrapped around him even tighter. Now, not only his leg, but also his shoulder, chest, and even the side of his face were all scratched by the vine, leaving streaks of blood. TSK, TSK, TSK. Su Junmo looked at the rolling Sikong Yang. You violated the demon realm's oath first. Don't tell me Master can't punish you. Save me. I beg you, save me. Sikong Yang desperately crawled toward Meng Qi and the rest. He looked like he was in a terrible state, and there was no trace of his handsome appearance from before. Save me. I swear. I swear to be loyal to Master from now on. If I have second thoughts. Meng Qi suddenly had an idea. She subconsciously curled her fingers at the side of her body. However, she quickly calmed herself down. The divine devouring vine's true power was not only using a cultivator's body as nourishment and using the body as a basin to grow new vines. A high-level divine devouring vine could even turn a cultivator's body into a puppet. That was the most terrifying and frightening part of this ferocious creature. She looked up at Su Junmo. Master was right. Young Master Crimson Fox, who crossed the border with this thing, deserved to be killed. The 12 Crimson Fox girls were all scared out of their wits. Apart from the 3 who were already poisoned by Meng Qi, they were now lying on the ground, wailing and moaning. The remaining 9 people all knelt down in front of Su Junmo. Master. One of the girls trembled as she knelt on the ground. Please spare our lives. We are willing to serve Master and treat Master as our Master. Please spare us. The antidote for Meng Qi was extremely effective. The red spots on Su Junmo's face had already faded. He was handsome, and he kept the cold expression he had when he spoke to Sikong Yang. He looked rather amiable. The Crimson Fox girls all felt that there was hope. They knelt down softly, and their voices were even more charming than before. Master, we are willing to be slaves. Please spare our lives. Su Junmo sneered. He raised his hand and stopped the girl from continuing. He asked lazily, Do you know about the demon realm's oath? Yes. The girl said softly, We are lowly and can only follow orders. Please have mercy on us, Master. As she spoke, she lowered her body even further, revealing a warm and soft chest. When she spoke, her voice was soft and delicate, and it was especially lovable. Please spare us, Master. The 12 Crimson Fox girls begged together. Their voices were sweet and coquettish. It was very hard for any man to resist. Have you hurt any cultivators with the divine devouring vine? Su Junmo asked. The girls looked at each other. They did not dare to lie to his face, nor did they dare to admit that they had hurt cultivators from the 3,000 worlds. Just as they were hesitating, Su Junmo said, Master's order to kill is issued to all demon cultivators who cross the border with the divine devouring vine. His voice turned cold, and a cold glint flashed across his eyes. We are all adult demons. When we violate the demon realm's oath, we should be prepared to bear the consequences. YQXSW. Su Junmo waved his hand, and a clear light shone on the 12 Crimson Fox girls. The divine devouring vines in their hands were already lying softly on the ground. At this moment, they suddenly jumped up at the same time, turned around, and pounced towards their master. Enveloped by the clear light, the Crimson Fox girls seemed to have lost their ability to resist. Soon, they were injured by their own weapons, just like Sikong Yang. Cries of agony could be heard, and this place seemed to have turned into purgatory. Su Junmo turned around and walked towards Meng Qi and the other 2. Sorry for making a fool of myself, he said as he walked slowly towards them. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiumor looked at each other, but they still stood in front of Meng Qi. After Su Junmo's identity as a demon cultivator was exposed, there were still cultivators from the 3,000 worlds who felt that he should be killed. After all, those who were not from the same clan would have different intentions. The sects that Chu Tianfeng and Qin Shumo belonged to had different opinions. Moreover, what happened here today involved many secrets of the demon realm. Is the master he mentioned a demon lord? Is he really missing? Then is the demon realm really in chaos now? Both of them were disciples nurtured by large sects, and countless thoughts flashed through their minds. They even began to wonder if this matter could be used by their respective sects for the 3,000 worlds. Su Junmo looked left and right at the two of them, then walked towards Meng Qi. He had originally suspected that he had recognized the wrong person, but the power of the powder just now had even caused him to suffer a little. Even if the other party was only a Qi disciple, he had some real medical skills. You. Su Junmo looked at Meng Qi, and called out tentatively, Little Qi? Chu Tianfeng? Qin Shumo. Damn. He actually called out so intimately. Even the little white tiger in Meng Qi's beast house in his storage bag suddenly opened its eyes. Some coldness quickly flashed through its azure blue eyes. Chapter 34. Meng Qi looked at Su Junmo calmly. We don't seem to be familiar with each other. In that instant, she decided that she couldn't hide her name from Su Junmo, so she might as well admit it. What do you mean? Su Junmo didn't understand. My name is Meng Qi. We aren't familiar enough to call each other Little Qi. Meng Qi repeated. Oh. So you're Meng Qi. Meng Qi? Wait. Meng Qi. Su Junmo raised his voice and looked at Meng Qi in surprise. Meng Qi is you? East Border, Cool Breeze Valley, Meng Qi. Qi disciple. You really are Qi disciple. Meng Qi looked at Su Junmo a little speechlessly and nodded. That's me. She didn't know that countless thoughts were running through his mind. Su Junmo looked at Meng Qi silently. She was just a Qi disciple. Why did his lord want him to investigate her? Qi disciple. There were as many cultivators as ants in the 3,000 world. A small sect like Cool Breeze Valley was probably the same as Qi disciple. In the vast sects of the 3,000 worlds, they couldn't be ranked at all. Investigate? Investigate what? Su Junmo looked at Meng Qi carefully. Didn't she see through everything at a glance? Qi disciple, she was at the peak, right? Breaking through was foundation establishment. Her medical skills seemed okay, 2nd grade? Or 3rd grade? That wasn't enough. Formations. That's right, formations. And the formations drawn on the silver medicine knife in her hand. Su Junmo didn't cultivate formations himself, but he had followed his lord for a long time and had seen a lot. In addition, he had seen many formations of cultivators after traveling in the 3,000 worlds for many years. He could see at a glance that Meng Qi's formations were a little different from the formations of the 3,000 worlds cultivators. It seemed to be inherited from the Sky Demon group, especially the Sky Demon White Tiger clan. Therefore, Su Junmo's mind was spinning fast, and the expression on his face was changing unpredictably. Who was this girl? His lord had never paid attention to a member of the opposite sect. The demon realm coveted her lord's beauty and strength. Many women took the initiative to throw themselves into her arms. However, his lord had never been one to mince his words. So who was this girl? Su Junmo looked at Meng Qi from head to toe. She was very good-looking. Although her expression seemed a little cold, some people liked passionate and unrestrained people, while others liked this kind of cold. They. Meng Qi turned to look at Su Junmo, who was staring at him like he was possessed. Are we just going to leave them like this? Sai Kongyang and the Scarlet Fox girls were lying on the ground, their bodies wrapped in green vines. Blood mixed with the fallen leaves and dust on the ground. Their faces were ashen, and they looked extremely miserable. Oh, I almost forgot. Su Junmo turned around and raised his hand to cast a spell. The air seemed to be torn apart by him, revealing a pitch-black, chilling, and murderous crack. Go back. Su Junmo waved his sleeve, rolled up Sai Kongyang and the others, and threw them into the crack. Phew, he exhaled deeply and turned to look at Meng Qi. So are you that little Qi? Su Junmo asked directly. He had seen Meng Qi twice in the heavens beyond heaven. The first time, he was with Xue Jinwen, and the Dark North pills that were sent to the auction that day were indeed submitted by Xue Jinwen. 156N Net Xue Jinwen did not say that Little Qi was the medical cultivator who refined those Dark North pills, and Su Junmo did not ask either. However, those Dark North pills were all of the second realm. How could a 5th or 6th grade medical cultivator refine a second realm Dark North pill? However, it was natural for a Qi refinement cultivator to refine a second realm Dark North pill. So was it her? Was it her? That Little Qi, the mysterious medical cultivator who used a bottle of second realm Dark North pill to cause a sensation in the dark auction house, and made all the major medical cultivator sects send people to specially wait for her. It was her. Oh right, on the day of the auction, his lord asked him to help raise the price. Later on, did this little sister still try to follow his lord? Then, his lord asked him to investigate Meng Qi in the east border's Cool Breeze Valley. Su Junmo suddenly clapped his hands. He imagined a lot of things in his mind, and used all his strength to hold back these words. Meng Qi, Chu Tianfeng, and Qin Xiumo all looked at him in confusion. Su Junmo looked at the silver medicine knife that Meng Qi was still holding in his hand, and then looked at the array on the ground. He understood. If this girl was that Little Qi who refined the Dark North pill, then everything made sense. His lord's whereabouts were unknown, and he had appeared in the heavens beyond heaven twice. The first time was on the day that Little Qi auctioned the Dark North pill and asked him to help raise the price. After the Dark North pill auction ended, she immediately left. The second time was a few days ago when she asked him to come to the east border to kill Sai Kongyang. Killing Sai Kongyang was nothing, but it happened to save this girl. He understood now. He completely understood now. Su Junmo looked at Meng Qi, who was looking at him with a bit of caution and vigilance. This was normal. Although most cultivators in the 3000 worlds could accept a friendly and kind demon cultivator like him, some cultivators would still be wary of demon cultivators, especially Sai Kongyang. Especially that idiot Si Kongyang, who had brought the divine devouring vine and almost injured Meng Qi and the others. Su Junmo put on what he thought was his most gentle and elegant smile and bowed respectfully to Meng Qi. Fellow Daoist Meng. Meng Qi, this was no longer an ordinary greeting between cultivators of the same generation. Su Junmo looked like he was greeting a supreme being or an elder. His expression was respectful, and his smile was even a bit fawning. Meng Qi looked at the white-robed man in front of him with uncertainty. The talkative fox in her memory was indeed noisy and domineering when he revealed his five-tailed white fox form. His personality was even a bit like a child's. But when he transformed into his human form, he had his own pride and nobility. Even when facing the sect master of a large sect like the Burning Sky Palace, he was neither servile nor overbearing. His attitude could even be said to be indifferent. Of course, at that time, Su Junmo regarded Chu Tianfeng as a love rival and did not have a good impression of the entire Burning Sky Palace. But now, Meng Qi hesitated. He still did not know Lu Qingran, right? Chu Tianfeng quickly exchanged a look with Qin Xiumo. Both of them saw the same doubt in each other's eyes. This guy was also saved by Meng Qi in his previous life. Did he remember something as well? How many people and animals did Meng Qi save? Fellow Daoist Meng, Su Junmo said to Meng Qi with a smile, "Where are you going?" "I have nothing to do, so maybe I can help a little." Meng Qi was about to have goosebumps all over her body. She had seen how Su Junmo passionately pursued senior martial sister Lu Qingran. When the demon cultivator clan was romantic, it was really far better than the cultivators of the 3000 worlds. Even he did not have such a fawning attitude towards Lu Qingran. "The three of us are enough. We dare not trouble fellow Daoist Su." Meng Qi returned a bow. Whenever she thought of the demonic sound that pierced her ears and made her collapse for 3 months in her previous life, she did not want to travel with Su Junmo at all. "Thank you for saving me just now." She cupped her hands towards Su Junmo again. Meng Qi hesitated for a while and thought of the red fox prince that he had injured. Most importantly, Su Junmo was injured by the divine devouring vine later on. The one who injured him should be an even more powerful red fox demon, and the divine devouring vine was also stronger. Meng Qi thought of the big white fox's pitiful appearance. Although the other party came today to clear the door to the demon realm, he had indeed saved them. Meng Qi hesitated for a while and said seriously, "Fellow Daoist Su, I think you know more about the power of the divine devouring vine than we do." That was for sure. All her understanding of the divine devouring vine came from this talkative fox. "You injured Sikong Yang. Be careful of his elder's revenge." After Meng Qi finished speaking, she nodded at Su Junmo. "Goodbye. Let's go." She turned and said to Chu Tianfeng and Su Junmo. The three of them continued to walk into the depths of the forest side by side. It seemed that the one who injured the disciples of Clear Wind Valley and Burning Sky Palace was this Red Fox Prince. With Elder Zun Yang around, it should not be a problem to get rid of them. As long as they brought back the 5 Elements green cranes on time, those disciples would be cured. Meng Qi was slightly relieved and started to check the surrounding situation seriously. In her previous life, to save Su Junmo, she had hunted and killed a few 5 Elements green cranes. Thus, she was quite familiar with the habits of this mutated bird. Meng Qi walked in front, while Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiumor walked on her left and right respectively. They were about an arm's length behind her. The two of them did not speak at all. They only exchanged a few glances in silence. "Fellow Daoist Meng. Fellow Daoist Meng." Meng Qi and the others had not walked far when Su Junmo's voice came from behind them again. The white figure suddenly appeared and accurately stopped beside Meng Qi. "I'm lost," Su Junmo said righteously. "Fellow Daoist Meng, please bring me along." "Meng Qi, can your excuse be any worse? To be able to accurately find Sikong Yang in the dense forest, does he look like someone who would get lost?" Su Junmo had already made up his mind. His lord sent him here obviously to protect his future partner who was still in the qi refining stage. As for why he did not come himself, this was not a question Su Junmo dared to ask. Anyway, he would not leave even if he was beaten to death. "Fellow Daoist Meng," Su Junmo said firmly, "I'll be very grateful if you can take me away from here." "You don't have to be very grateful," Chu Tianfeng said leisurely behind Meng Qi. "Pay the spirit stones and we'll take you along." "Huh?" Su Junmo's eyes lit up. "Is this okay?" He grabbed a handful of spirit stones from his storage bag and forcefully stuffed them into Meng Qi's hands. "Is this enough?" He thought for a moment and asked, "Let me follow you for 3 months. Chapter 35. Outside the camp where the disciples of Clear Wind Valley and Burning Sky Palace were resting, Elder Yang Mingfeng sat cross-legged on a big rock. His eyes were closed, and his divine sense seemed to be completely immersed in cultivation. The sect master of Clear Wind Valley walked to his side, but he did not open his eyes. "Meng Qi is not back yet." The sect master stood beside Yang Mingfeng for a moment. "This is already the 6th day. She looked at the endless forest in the distance. "The injured disciples are getting more and more worried. If they don't come back soon, it will cause panic." "Who? What panic?" Yang Mingfeng opened his eyes. Before the sect master of Clear Wind Valley could speak, a commotion came from behind them. "Sect master." Lan Zhuxian stumbled and ran toward the sect master of Clear Wind Valley. Her eyes were red, and as she ran, tears rolled down her cheeks uncontrollably. Sect master." She rolled up her left sleeve, revealing her fair wrist. I'm here." Behind Lan Zhuxian were 2 other injured female disciples of Clear Wind Valley. Their eyes were wide open, and their faces were pale. A few steps behind them, the injured male disciples of Clear Wind Valley and Burning Sky Palace were also standing there. They looked anxiously and worriedly in the direction of the sect master of Clear Wind Valley. "What's wrong?" The sect master's expression froze, and he quickly walked toward Lan Zhuxian. On her fair wrist, a small green vine suddenly drilled out. There were even 2 tender leaves on it. If it was not on Lan Zhuxian's wrist, it would actually look quite cute. But now, it only made people feel extremely disgusted and terrified. The sect master of Clear Wind Valley quickly walked toward the other injured disciples. No matter where they were injured before, as long as they were injured by the divine devouring vines, such a tender shoot would grow on their wrists without exception. This. The sect master was shocked. She looked up at Elder Zun Yang, who sighed helplessly and shook his head. He was strong enough. But there were specializations in this field. He seemed to have heard of the divine devouring vine before, but its effects, habits, and behavior after injuring people, Zun Yang had also heard of it from Meng Qi for the first time. It can't be pulled out or cut off, Zun Yang said in a low voice. Just as Meng Qi had said, the vines had completely merged with the flesh and blood of these disciples. They wanted to see if they could pull it out or cut it off. Even the most tenacious disciple of the Burning Sky Palace fainted from the pain with a slight touch. As for the thin vines that looked young and fragile, even their leaves were not damaged at all. Sect Master. Lan Zhuxian cried so hard that she almost couldn't breathe. Disciple is so scared. This disciple is so scared. Junior Martial Sister Meng Qi hasn't returned yet. Disciple is so scared. Woo 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 woo. Lan Zhuxian's cries grew louder and louder. The two female disciples of the Cool Breeze Valley were already panicking. Infected by her, the two of them also began to cry silently. Even the faces of the male disciples turned pale. They might not be afraid of death, but that day, Meng Qi had said that even if they died, their bodies would be taken over by this disgusting and terrifying monster. Their flesh and blood, as well as their remaining spirit qi, would be used as nutrients, and their skeletons would be used as flower pots to nurture new divine devouring vines. Just thinking about it made their hair stand on end. Sect Master. Woo woo woo. Lan Zhuxian cried very loudly. Why isn't Junior Martial Sister Meng Qi back yet? Didn't she say that she would be back soon? This thing has already grown out. Will it be useless even if she comes back? Woo woo woo. She sobbed. Woo woo woo. Is Junior Martial Sister Meng Qi not coming back? Meng Qi, she. The sect master was a little hesitant. Meng Qi had only entered the Cool Breeze Valley for half a year. She did not have a deep impression of this disciple who had just entered the sect. She had only heard Elder Yang mention that there was such a young disciple who was quite talented and might not lose to Lu Qingran, whom she valued the most. The Cool Breeze Valley sect master subconsciously turned to look at Elder Yang, wanting to find an answer from him. Meng Qi will come back. But Junior Martial Sister Meng Qi has already been gone for 7 days. She is with young Palatial Master Chu. Will they? Lan Zhuxian bit her lower lip lightly. She did not finish her sentence, but everyone could guess what she wanted to say. Senior Martial Sister Lan. At this moment, one of the tents opened, and Lu Qingran quickly walked towards everyone from inside. She was also holding a bamboo slip in her hand. She said gently, I read almost all the books I could find and saw that this book mentioned the divine devouring vine. Lu Qingran looked around and smiled comfortingly at Lan Zhuxian and the other injured people. She said gently, the divine devouring vine's name is not mentioned, but it is recorded that it comes from the demon realm. The symptoms after it injures people are the same as what Junior Martial Sister Meng described. It should be correct. Really? Lan Zhuxian suddenly reached out and grabbed Lu Qingran's hand. She used too much strength, and Lu Qingran felt a wave of pain. However, she only frowned slightly and let Lan Zhuxian continue to grab her wrist. If the book is not wrong, as long as Junior Martial Sister Meng Qi can come back within half a month after you are injured, she can be saved. Then, did the book say how to save her? Lan Zhuxian quickly asked. This time, even the Cool Breeze Valley Master and Zun Yang came over. Lu Qingran shook her head regretfully. It did not mention. The person who wrote this book had only heard of the legend of the divine devouring vine. He had never seen it before, so he did not know how to treat it. Then, Lan Zhuxian's lips moved slightly. Then, does Meng Qi really know how to treat it? Not only Lan Zhuxian, but everyone wanted to ask the same question. Even the Cool Breeze Valley Master and elders had never heard of it. Even the ancient books that Lu Qingran had found had records of unknown mysterious things. Could she really treat a qi refinement cultivator who had only joined the sect for half a year? Junior Martial Sister Meng, she won't really not come back, right? another Cool Breeze Valley female disciple murmured as she slowly lowered her head and looked at the vine on her wrist in fear and confusion. Junior Marshall Sister Meng, was she lying to us before? Another male disciple asked softly. His voice trembled as he looked at the small vine on his wrist in disgust and fear. Did she already know that she could not treat it and purposely lied to us to wait for death here? Yeah, maybe Junior Marshall Sister Meng did not even know how to treat this divine devouring vine and just lied to us to wait for her here, another male disciple said. His lips were dry and cracked. He had been hungry and thirsty for the past few days. However, when he thought of what Meng Qi had said, he resisted the urge to drink water and ate very little. At this moment, he stood there weakly, his entire person seeming to be weak. So, Meng Qi lied to us. Lan Zhuxian suddenly raised her voice and screamed, she lied to us. She lied to us to wait for death here. She wanted us to be swallowed by this terrifying thing and become disgusting monsters. She lied to us. She screamed. Her voice was sharp and shrill as if she was desperately venting the fear in her heart. Yuwenku. Fear was the most contagious emotion in the first place. Those disciples who were injured like her were already trembling with fear these past few days. Lan Zhuxuan's screams also evoked the fear in the deepest part of their hearts. Arth. A Cool Breeze Valley female disciple squatted down and crazily pulled the vine on her hand, screaming, "Monster, get away. I'll kill you." She had only pulled the vine twice when her body twitched twice and she fell to the ground with a loud thud. Senior Marshall Sister, Lu Qing hurriedly ran to the unconscious female disciple and carefully helped her lie flat on the ground. Master. She turned to look at the sect master. Senior Marshall Sister fainted. The Cool Breeze Valley sect master sighed softly. She had successfully formed her core when she was close to 30 years old, and her aging had already slowed down. However, she had obviously become tired these past few days, as if she had aged 10 years in a few days. Sect Master. Lan Zhuxuan's face flushed red. Meng Qi lied to us. Sect Master, please punish Meng Qi severely and uphold justice for the disciples. Her face was tear-stained, and her nose and eyes were red. She looked exceptionally pitiful. Meng Qi shouldn't, Sect Master. Lan Zhuxian unceremoniously interrupted the sect master with a sharp voice. She was about to die, and she didn't care. It was all Meng Qi's fault. She lied to them. She also deserved to die. She screamed and quickly said, Meng Qi lied to us, to the sect master and elder, and to us. He also lied to Elder Zun and the young palace master of Burning Heaven Palace, and killed their disciples. Sect Master, please punish Meng Qi severely and uphold justice for the disciples. Nonsense. Zun Yang finally couldn't stand it anymore. From top to bottom in Cool Breeze Valley, except for Yang Mingfeng, no one could keep their composure. At this critical moment, they actually started to panic. Zun Yang looked at the Cool Breeze Valley sect master in disappointment. Many of the top 10 sects that could stand at the peak of all the worlds in the Trichiliocosm were just small sects in the beginning. Sometimes, it might take thousands of years of hard work for the sect to gradually grow and become stronger. During this process, a decisive, far-sighted, and broad-minded sect master was especially important. Zun Yang looked at the Cool Breeze Valley sect master in disappointment. When he received Chu Tianfeng's request for help and rushed over, he actually had a basic understanding of Cool Breeze Valley. It had been established for thousands of years, and it had once produced 1 or 2 outstanding disciples. However, in these years, it had indeed declined very quickly. Zun Yang looked at the indecisive and cowardly Cool Breeze Valley sect master. Now, Zun Yang knew why this sect had fallen to such a state. He looked up at Yang Mingfeng. He would think of a way to bring Elder Yang and Meng Qi to Burning Heaven Palace so that they would no longer be affected by these people. After making up his mind, Zun Yang walked toward the disciples with his hands behind his back. He frowned and looked at Lan Zhuxian. If Meng Qi didn't mention it, would any of you know that it was the divine devouring vine that injured you? Lan Zhuxian was stunned and looked at Zun Yang blankly. If Meng Qi really didn't care about your lives, she could have not mentioned the divine devouring vine. Your sect master personally treated you and checked your bodies. She didn't even realize that the divine devouring vine was causing trouble. In the future, when your injuries really act up, no one will blame Meng Qi. Zun Yang was really disappointed. He originally thought that this was an internal matter of other sects, and it was not good for him to interfere. However, looking at the group of people pestering him and the cowardly Cool Breeze Valley sect master, he simply couldn't take it anymore. You said that Meng Qi harmed you? How did she do that? Zun Yang asked bluntly. Did she hurt you with the divine devouring vine? The ones who harmed you were those demon cultivators who used the divine devouring vine as weapons. You can blame and complain that your sect master and I didn't protect you well. He paused and continued. You can even blame your sect master and Burning Sky Palace for being useless. They couldn't find out how powerful the divine devouring vine was and couldn't treat you. However, Meng Qi is so innocent. A faint light flashed across Zun Yang's eyes. As a cultivator, you don't cultivate your heart and don't reflect on yourself. You randomly blame an innocent junior sister. Lan Zhuxian was simply stunned. Even the sect master of Cool Breeze Valley had never scolded or reprimanded his disciples so mercilessly. Zun Yang had not finished speaking. He was also an elder in Burning Sky Palace and had a wide circle of friends. He was famous for being kind and amiable. The disciples of Burning Heaven Palace who had followed him here had never seen this elder so angry. They also disliked the Cool Breeze Valley disciples. Although they came from a small sect, cultivators cultivated their hearts and understood the great Tao of heaven and earth. Small sects could also produce powerful cultivators. However, this Cool Breeze Valley didn't feel like a cultivator sect. The sect master didn't have the courage, and the disciples didn't feel like cultivators. It was very messy. If it wasn't for that Meng Qi, they didn't know why young palace master was so interested in a sect like this. At this time, the Burning Sky Palace disciples were watching with great interest. It was rare to see their sect master reprimand someone so amiable. Zun Yang had not finished speaking. As a Shejie, you are not skilled enough. You cannot save yourself or your fellow sect members, but you can blame a junior sister who entered the sect later than you. You. He turned and looked calmly at the sect master of Cool Breeze Valley. As the sect master, you should cleanse the sect from its roots and clean up the unhealthy practices in the sect. You do not protect the innocent disciples who have been wronged or who have risked their lives to find medicine in order to save the disciples of the sect. Yet, he indulged his rude and unreasonable disciples. With a sect master like you in Cool Breeze Valley, even if Yaomor don't invade, it will not last long. Zun Yang shook his head. You are really too disappointing. He turned to look at Yang Mingfeng. Fellow Daoist Yang, I now formally extend an invitation to you and little friend Meng Qi. All of Burning Sky Palace welcomes you. If you are willing, you can enter my Burning Sky Palace at any time. The entire campsite instantly fell silent. The Cool Breeze Valley disciples all looked dazedly at Zun Yang. Lan Zhuxian, who had been crying and making a fuss, closed her mouth in fright. Zun Yang had been in Cool Breeze Valley for a while and had always been amiable. As a Yuanying Shouja, he was also very amiable to the normal disciples of Cool Breeze Valley. He was very respectful to the sect master of Cool Breeze Valley even though he was the main force in this Mo extermination mission. But out of respect, the sect master of Cool Breeze Valley was still the leader in name. The sect master of Cool Breeze Valley's face immediately became hot. Zun Yang had already walked in front of the 3 wounded disciples of Burning Sky Palace and ordered them in a low voice, wait for 3 more days. Yes. The 3 disciples bowed respectfully. Their expressions were not very good but they maintained their calm. They had not lost face for Burning Sky Palace. Zun Yang sighed lightly and reached out to pat the shoulder of one of the disciples. He turned and looked into the forest. Not just the young palace master and Meng Qi, they were, Zun Yang's expression suddenly turned serious. Be on guard. After Meng Qi and the others left, the yarrow cultivators who had been chasing and harassing them seemed to have disappeared as well. Zun Yang had also been worried that the yarrow cultivators might have chased after Chu Tianfeng and the others. But when he thought of Chu Tianfeng's life-saving methods, no matter how bad it was, his life would not be in danger. Those yarrow cultivators who had ambushed him were on par with him, so there should not be any major problems. But at this moment, Zun Yang could feel that there was an even purer and more powerful spirit energy not far away. And it was not the familiar aura of a cultivator. It was very likely, prepare for battle. Zun Yang made a hand gesture. The Burning Sky Palace disciples, including the 3 injured by the divine devouring vines, quickly got into position. They were ready to face the enemy. The Cool Breeze Valley disciples instantly panicked again. They thought of Elder Zun Yang's words and looked at the chaotic disciples in front of them. The Cool Breeze Valley sect master's face burned even more, and he felt even more ashamed. Behind a big tree not far from the camp, Meng Qi only wanted to reach out and cover her ears now. Not only her, but Chu Tianfeng and Qin Shemo were also about to explode. If looks could kill, Qin Shemo would have probably killed Chu Tianfeng thousands of times already. To pay tribute to that idiot Chu Tianfeng who had made a stupid suggestion a few days ago, and who had let Su Junmo seize the opportunity to shamelessly stay behind. Did you hear that? That person's words were really good, and it made people feel exceptionally good. Meng Qi, did you hear that? Su Junmo did not feel that there was anything wrong with him at all. He had a very good memory, and with a light cough, he repeated Zun Yang's words just now. He even imitated the tone perfectly. Ha ha ha, he actually only invited Yang Mingfeng and you. Isn't Zun Yang the legendary good guy in the Burning Sky Palace? I heard that he's good at dealing with people, and he's especially good at dealing with people. His words are a bit disrespectful to the Cool Breeze Valley sect master, and he's especially ruthless. But he's right, the Cool Breeze Valley is simply a bunch of idiots. From the sect master to those disciples, not a single one of them can understand. Ah, of course I'm not talking about you, Meng Qi, you're special. Yang Mingfeng is also special. Except for you, the others are all idiots. Su Junmo hurriedly added. As soon as his voice fell, Meng Qi, Chu Tianfeng, and Qin Shemo, the 3 people's 6 pairs of eyes, all focused on him. What? Did I say something wrong? Or are you also from the Cool Breeze Valley? Chu Tianfeng, aren't you the young palace master of the Burning Sky Palace? I met your father 3 years ago at the assembly of 10,000 immortals and chatted for a bit. Qin Shemo, aren't you the disciple of someone in the southern land? Why are you looking at me? I said the Cool Breeze Valley is an idiot, not you, don't be nervous. Meng Qi suddenly turned around. Let's go. She kept a straight face and walked away quickly. That day, Meng Qi actually didn't intend to take Su Junmo's spirit stones and let him follow. Others didn't know, but she knew this talkative fox too well. The pain of the demonic sound piercing one's ears was really unimaginable to ordinary people. But Su Junmo's cultivation was really too high. He stuffed the spirit stones into Meng Qi's hands and flew away. Meng Qi wanted to chase after him and return it, but she couldn't keep up with his figure at all. Then they saw the 5 elements green crane. And they were very lucky, it was actually a level 4 5 elements green crane. Meng Qi and the others were caught off guard, and even Chu Tianfeng couldn't keep up with the 5 elements green crane, which was 1 level higher than him. Among the 4 people, only Su Junmo could keep up. Meng Qi made a prompt decision and didn't waste time arguing with Su Junmo. Because she had to use the heartbreaking curse to kill the 5 elements green crane. So with Su Junmo's help, the 4 people spent another day and finally succeeded in killing the green crane. Su Junmo helped a lot, paying and putting in effort, but the other party just said that he was lost. It was really unreasonable to force him away. Meng Qi could only let the talkative fox follow and quickly return. They had actually arrived here half an hour ago, just when Lan Zhuxian was crying and looking for the sect leader. The 4 of them were not far away, and Lan Zhuxian didn't control her voice at all. Her accusations entered the ears of Meng Qi, Chu Tianfeng, and the others. Chu Tianfeng's face became colder and colder. Qin Shemo's gaze became sharper and sharper, and his natal longsword was even floating in the air, ready to attack at any time. Meng Qi was also very angry. Lan Zhuxian didn't like her because of a dispute between fellow disciples. But she shouldn't have slandered her behind her back like this. She was just about to clear her name. However, no one expected that Elder Zun Yang would suddenly stand up for her. His voice penetrated into Meng Qi's ears word by word. Although it was no longer gentle, It was incomparably iron-like. Meng Qi's back was against the trunk, and Elder Zun Yang's words were in her ears. She raised her eyes and looked at the sky through the dense branches and leaves in the forest. Because there were people like Elder Zun Yang in this world, Meng Qi understood why Elder Yang had the great ambition to travel all over the world and rule the world. The disciples of Burning Sky Palace at the camp had already noticed Meng Qi and the others. Elder, it seems to be, the young palace master. A disciple of Burning Sky Palace said excitedly, the young palace master is back. Meng Qi walked very quickly, and Chu Tianfeng and Qin Shemo were still half a step away from her, one on her left and one on her right. Su Junmo finally shut his mouth. In front of strangers, he was the young noble with a high cultivation base and his own pride. Meng Qi quickly returned to the camp. Zun Yang had already led the disciples of Burning Sky Palace to greet her. Did it go smoothly? He didn't mention what had just happened and first sized up Meng Qi. You're not injured, are you? No. Meng Qi looked at Zun Yang and smiled. Everything went smoothly. After Meng Qi finished speaking, she turned and nodded at Chu Tianfeng. He stepped forward and took out the Realm 4 5 Elements green crane from his storage bag. The Realm 4 mutant bird's body was already very large, and Meng Qi's storage bag was too small to hold it. Take the blood, she said. Put it in a wooden bucket and soak the whole body of the person injured by the divine devouring vine. Okay. Zun Yang nodded without hesitation and immediately ordered his disciples to do as Meng Qi said. Then, he looked at Meng Qi and smiled kindly. You've worked hard these days. Go and rest for a while. Junior sister Meng Qi. Before Meng Qi could answer, Lu Qingran's voice suddenly came from behind. Please come over. Meng Qi turned and looked at her. Lu Qingran stood beside the Cool Breeze Valley sect master, who didn't look too good. Her back was straight, and her eyes were filled with pure fearlessness. Junior sister Meng Qi. Lu Qingran bowed to Meng Qi. I have a few questions about the divine devouring vine. Please answer them, junior sister Meng Qi. After Lu Qingran spoke, everyone's eyes, which were originally focused on Meng Qi, all looked at her. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Shemo were still expressionless, but a hint of disgust flashed across their eyes. Especially Qin Shemo, who looked at Lu Qingran coldly. This scene was extremely familiar. Although he hadn't completely recalled everything, the fearless and upright Lu Qingran, who was standing upright like this, left a deep impression on him. He was once mesmerized by her like this. He thought that she was really brave, kind, innocent, and pure, untainted by the world. Qin Shemo's lips curled up in a cold smile. True courage, kindness, and fearlessness should never be like this. Meng Qi, however, didn't have such a big reaction. She just glanced at Lu Qingran and said, Senior sister Lu, please speak. Chapter 36. It was time for Meng Qi to rest. She was a qi refinement cultivator after all. She could do it without sleeping for a few days and nights, but she would still feel tired. Ran Wen. La thank you, junior sister. Lu Qingran bowed to her again. She was wearing a long green robe that the disciples of the Cool Breeze Valley often wore, and she was about to give him a handshake. Her long hair was tied up, and a white jade hairpin was hanging on her hair. Lu Qingran was very beautiful. The mountain breeze blew her hair, and a few strands of hair brushed past her fair cheeks. She had a slender waist and a willow-like back, and her eyes were bright. She was really beautiful and fairy-like. These few days, I've flipped through all the books I could find, and I only saw introductions about the divine devouring vine. The books did not mention the name of this thing, and they did not even mention the symptoms and characteristics after being injured. Lu Qingran's voice was clear and pleasant, and everyone present heard it clearly. So even Master and the elders did not realize that senior brothers and senior sisters were injured by the divine devouring vine. Lu Qingran looked at Meng Qi and said, Junior sister Meng, how did you determine that senior sisters Lan Zhuxian and the others were injured by the divine devouring vine? This is one of the reasons. Lu Qingran paused for a moment before continuing. The divine devouring vine is from the demon realm. When junior sister Meng entered the Cool Breeze Valley, She said that she grew up in Coolbreeze Town and had never left there. However, not only did you recognize the divine devouring vine, but you also know how to treat it. Previously, She looked at Yang Mingfeng and said, I've asked Elder Yang. There were no records about the divine devouring vine in the Coolbreeze Valley's library. This is the second reason. Junior Sister Meng wanted to treat the people injured by the divine devouring vine, and the 5 Elements green crane happened to be nearby. Before Junior Marshall Sister left, demon cultivators hid their tracks and came and went like ghosts, chasing after us day and night. After Junior Sister Meng left to find the 5 Elements green crane, the demon cultivators did not come again. Yet, it was these demon cultivators who used the divine devouring vine to injure senior sisters and senior brothers. This timing is too much of a coincidence. This is the third reason. Lu Qingran spoke clearly and tirelessly. His tone didn't sound aggressive. In the end, she bowed to Meng Qi once again. Junior Marshall Sister, you have been running around for a long time, so I should let you rest first. But Lu Qingran turned to look at the Coolbreeze Valley sect leader. She continued, Master is kind and benevolent. She took great care of me and taught me the Tao and gave me a new lease on life. He treats all the disciples of the Coolbreeze Valley equally, and has never done anything unjust or unfair, or selfishly favoring any disciple. Lu Qingran paused for a moment before looking at Zun Yang with her bright eyes. This junior doesn't dare to criticize Elder Zun for protecting Junior Sister Meng. However, this junior is unable to accept his criticism of Master. Her back was ramrod straight as she met Zun Yang's gaze, neither servile nor overbearing. Her opponent was a nascent soul stage expert, and his strength was far superior to hers. Lu Qingran was not afraid at all. Her eyes were clear and awe-inspiring. Wow! Su Junmo stood beside Meng Qi. He had restrained himself for a long time. At this time, he couldn't resist and muttered in a small voice, Mai is very strong. This isn't asking you a question, Meng Qi, this is pointing a sword at you. He glanced sideways at Zun Yang. 50 spirit Shouja, fighting above their level. She is very daring and very filial. What's more, what he said sounded quite reasonable. He spoke quickly and softly. Other than Meng Qi and Chu Tianfeng who were standing beside Su Junmo, the other people only saw his lips move quickly, but did not know what he was saying. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiumor both looked at Su Junmo. The other people's gazes were completely focused on Lu Qingran and Meng Qi. They looked at Lu Qingran and then at Meng Qi. Lu Qingran's words did not seem unreasonable. Meng Qi, would she explain? Meng Shamai. Lu Qingran took a deep breath. Shijie is not making things difficult for you or suspecting you. But the disciples of the sect, especially the Shijie and Shixiang who are injured, do have doubts. You almost caused chaos because of Shamai, and angered Elder Zun Yang. She looked at Meng Qi and said, Junior Marshall Sister, can you answer these questions of mine and solve the doubts in our hearts? Meng Qi's eyelids drooped slightly and she did not immediately speak. Other than Su Junmo, none of the disciples present spoke. Zun Yang couldn't help but cough lightly. He had criticized her because he had been too angry. He hadn't thought that it would cause such trouble for Meng Qi. Cough cough. He took a step forward and broke this almost awkward silence. This matter started because of me. Since it is a misunderstanding, Zun Yang had a humble personality. Otherwise, he would not have been sent by the palace master of Burning Sky Palace to help Chu Tianfeng. He had stood up for Meng Qi before, and now he did not want to cause trouble for her because of him. Elder Zun. Meng Qi opened his mouth and interrupted him unhurriedly. Senior Sister Lu Qingran is asking me, let me answer. She smiled gratefully at Zun Yang. There was nothing that couldn't be said. She had indeed heard the name of the divine devouring vine from Su Junmo. However, when she had met Su Junmo in her previous life, he had already been injured by the divine devouring vine for 10 days and could not even transform. What Meng Qi had seen was a fluffy 5-tailed white fox. At that time, Su Junmo had already fainted and was lying there quietly. The dark red bloodstains and mud had dirted his long white fur. He looked pathetic and pitiful. Meng Qi could not obtain any information from the unconscious white fox, Su Junmo. She could only smell the faint floral fragrance that lingered in the air. The floral fragrance was unfamiliar, but not unfamiliar. There was the smell of the forest after the rain, mixed with the sweet smell of white peaches and the bitter smell of pine leaves. Apart from that, there was also the bitter and sweet smell of burnt sugar. That smell was actually very pleasant and would not make people feel that it was dangerous. Meng Qi had already checked Su Junmo's body. Apart from the wounds on his body, she could not find any other reason. At that time, Su Junmo was already equivalent to a spirit-severing cultivator and was even more powerful than he was now. Just those superficial wounds could not have made him so pathetic. She had also thought for a long time before recalling the descriptions in the books she had read from the floral fragrance. At that time, she had not met her teacher and had learned most of what she had learned from the Clearwind Valley Library. Apart from that, she had used the spirit stones she had accumulated to buy books from the Cloud Immortal Pavilion. There was nothing that she could not tell others. Meng Qi looked at Lu Qingran and smiled faintly. In the Cloud Immortal Pavilion, you can buy 3 types of scrolls for 200 first-grade spirit stones. She paused and said, Demon Travel Notes, Clearwind Town's herbal records, and Demon World scenery. As Meng Qi spoke, she took out 3 bamboo slips from her bracelet storage bag. These were very ordinary books she had bought from the Cloud Immortal Pavilion. Because they only recorded local customs and travel experiences and were not considered spells, they were sold very cheaply. Ordinary disciples of the Clearwind Valley could also buy them if they did some basic sect missions. Lu Qingran was stunned. Chu Tianfeng waved her hand and the 3 bamboo slips flew in front of her. Although Clearwind Town is a small town, it is located at the border between the Eastland and the Demon World. There are cracks in the boundary from time to time, and demon cultivators cross over. It is recorded in this book that there are vines and plants in the demon world with multicolored flowers. They use the flesh and blood of living creatures as nourishment and are extremely dangerous. After being injured, the body will emit a strange fragrance, sweet like white peaches and bitter like caramel pine, Meng Qi said lightly. Lu Qingran was stunned. Meng Qi's expression did not change, and she continued to say calmly, this book is a record of what the senior had seen and heard after entering the demon world. It also mentioned that she had seen green vines that can bloom multicolored flowers and use the bodies of strange beasts as basins to nourish themselves. It is abnormally evil. The fragrance of the flowers is bitter and sweet, like caramel pine. When smelling it, one should avoid it. As Meng Qi spoke, she pointed to the 3rd bamboo slip. This book is a list of all kinds of plants that the senior had seen in the demon world. There are similar records in it. In addition, it also mentioned that strange beasts injured by this strange fragrance will be unbearably thirsty and drink a lot of water. She paused and said, in addition, there are several similar books that can be found related records. She looked into Lu Qingran's eyes. When I entered Senior Marshal Sister Lan's tent that day, I smelled this fragrance. My Clearwind Valley is a medical cultivation sect, and most of the Senior Marshal Sisters have a light medicinal fragrance. I have never smelled such a smell in the sect. So I was suspicious and asked casually. As expected, they were injured by the vines, and they were thirsty and easily hungry. Meng Qi said, I suspected that they were injured by this thing. Even so, Lan Zhuxian, who was supposed to soak in the 5 elements green crane blood, was still standing there. She looked at Meng Qi with a pale face, and her eyes flashed. How do you know what it is called? How should it be treated? She thought of Zun Yang's accusation and became angrier. Did these books mention it too? No. Meng Qi shook her head. So you were indeed lying to us. Lan Zhuxian suddenly raised her voice. Do you not know how to treat it at all? You want to kill us? Meng Qi looked at Lan Zhuxian. She could not say that she had really cured a person who was injured by a divine devouring vine. So she could guarantee that the method was correct. To explain this problem clearly, it involved too many people. However, she could tell them the process and thoughts she had when she tried to treat Fox Su's injury. Thinking of this, Meng Qi could not help but look at Su Junmo again. At that time, she had tried many methods to save his life. The other party was also having a hard time. However, when the talkative fox was in pain, he would grumble endlessly, and she was also tortured badly. Everyone, come back quickly. Don't touch that 5 elements green crane first. Lan Zhuxian turned and ran toward those people. Meng Qi does not know how to treat us at all. She is lying to us. She screamed and pulled those injured disciples back. She lied to us. Lan Zhuxian's voice was smug, but there was also an indescribable fear. If Meng Qi lied to everyone, what should they do about their injuries? Should they count on the sect master? Or, after Lan Zhuxian finished screaming, she suddenly fell silent. Her face was pale, and she turned her head in confusion. Meng Qi stood in place with a cold expression. No one could tell whether she was happy or angry. Those disciples who were called back by Lan Zhuxian all stared at this scene in a daze. The wind blew through the forest, and the leaves rustled. The entire campsite suddenly became very quiet. No one spoke anymore. If Meng Qi lied to them, she would not know how to treat them. In that case, those who had never heard of the divine devouring vine would not know how to treat it. What should these injured people do? Everyone looked at Meng Qi and then at Lan Zhuxian. No one spoke. No one knew what to say. Junior sister Meng. Lu Qingran forced a smile and asked gently, so why did you lie to everyone just now? What should these injured senior brothers and senior sisters do now? It has been almost 10 days since they were injured. It's probably too late to find someone who can treat them. Meng Qi frowned. That's right, Junior sister Meng, another Cool Breeze Valley disciple beside Lu Qingran said, why did you lie to everyone? You wasted 10 days for nothing. It's too late now. That's right. The Cool Breeze Valley disciples all nodded. They had all heard how Elder Zun Yang spoke up for Meng Qi and criticized the sect leader and Lan Zhuxian mercilessly. Even all the Cool Breeze Valley disciples were embarrassed. Now, they looked at Meng Qi and were speechless. Anyway, she was not the one who was injured. Everyone was gloating over her misfortune. That's right, junior sister Meng Qi. If you didn't show off previously, we might have already found someone else who can treat them now. Aren't you wasting our time? That's right. Meng Qi's expression was still very calm. As if she did not hear the Cool Breeze Valley disciples mocking, she said calmly, the divine devouring vine's treatment is not recorded in the books. But enough. Lan Zhuxian interrupted her sternly. How long do you want to lie to us? Junior sister Meng Qi, yes, that's right. I shouldn't have said bad things about you behind your back. But even if you don't like me, you shouldn't have dragged so many people down with you. Lan Zhuxian pointed her finger and said angrily, dragging so many of your fellow disciples down with you. Is this fun? I just said a few bad things about you, but you want my life. You're really too vicious. Meng Qi frowned. She looked past Lan Zhuxian and looked at the other injured disciples. I can treat the divine devouring vine's injuries. Are you willing to believe me? Those injured disciples all avoided Meng Qi's gaze, not daring to look at her. But their expressions clearly said that they did not believe her. Junior sister Meng Qi. Another disciple suddenly asked, is this divine devouring vine really that powerful? Why do I feel that something is wrong? Su Junmo mumbled. Why did everyone suddenly start blaming Meng Qi? It's not just wrong, Chu Tianfeng said in a low voice. This is what they are best at. Stupid and stupid. All of them have no brains. You. Chu Tianfeng stepped forward and pointed at the 3 Burning Sky Palace disciples who were also injured by the divine devouring vine. Come here. Yes. Those 3 disciples walked towards Chu Tianfeng. Young Imperial Empress. They respectfully saluted and stood still in the same place. Previously, I was poisoned by a 5th-stage demonic creature and was saved by this Meng Qi. I trust her and believe that she will definitely save you. Chu Tianfeng looked at his fellow disciples. Are you willing to believe me? We are willing to believe you, young Imperial Empress. The 3 disciples bowed and said without hesitation, we are also willing to believe you. Okay. Chu Tianfeng nodded. He waved his hand and said decisively to the disciples who were originally ordered to take the 5 elements green crane's blood, you guys, continue taking the blood. Meng Qi, Chu Tianfeng said and looked at Meng Qi. My Burning Sky Palace disciples are in your care. Young Imperial Empress Chu. Lan Zhuxian screamed. Don't believe her. There were rumors before that Meng Qi colluded with demonic creatures. Otherwise, how could she, a Qi refinement cultivator, cure your poison? With a soft slap, Lan Zhuxuan's head tilted to the side from the slap. She stood there in a daze and didn't come back to her senses for a long time. Only when she felt a burning sensation on her face did she suddenly raise her head and look at Meng Qi in disbelief. Qin Shomor crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at her lazily. His pitch-black eyes were like an ice-cold abyss. A long sword floated beside him. It was this long sword that had caused a gust of sword wind to strike Lan Zhuxian mercilessly. You! Lan Zhuxian glared at Qin Shomor in shock and anger, but she didn't dare to step forward. I'm kindly reminding you. Qin Shomor smiled coldly and looked around at the Cool Breeze Valley disciples. He smiled sarcastically. Even if I give you 15 days, you can try and see if you can find a cultivator who can recognize the divine devouring vine and save you. As he spoke, he stepped forward and protected Meng Qi behind him. But if anyone dares to speak rudely to Meng Qi again, it won't be the sword that hits you next time. Let's go, Chu Tianfeng said to Meng Qi. Everyone in the Burning Sky Palace trusts you. His voice wasn't soft, so everyone present should be able to hear him. Chu Tianfeng was in front, and Qin Shomor was in the back. Even Lan Zhuxian only dared to move her lips. Looking at Qin Shomor's sword floating in the air, she didn't dare to say anything. Meng Qi didn't look at them anymore and walked toward the 3 injured Burning Sky Palace disciples. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Shomor followed behind her like guards. With the 2 of them together, no one in the Cool Breeze Valley was their match. Those disciples could only watch. Even the sect master didn't dare to act rashly against them. Go and sleep for 4 hours first. As soon as Meng Qi stepped into the tent, Chu Tianfeng pulled her sleeve and pointed to a small tent. I'll call you when it's time. Meng Qi shook her head. She followed into the tent where the 3 Burning Sky Palace disciples were recuperating. The inside was already filled with the smell of the 5 elements green crane's blood. Lan Zhuxian isn't afraid of death. Meng Qi silently watched the 3 disciples soak in the 5 elements green crane's blood. She frowned and turned to look at Chu Tianfeng. Meng Qi couldn't understand. No matter how stupid Lan Zhuxian was, she shouldn't have jumped out to oppose her at this time. Even if she doubted her. Even if she felt that she was lying. But wasn't she worried that if she wasn't lying, she and the other disciples of the Cool Breeze Valley would all die? Meng Qi couldn't figure it out. She clearly wanted to explain why she could guarantee that she could heal the divine devouring vine's injuries. But Lan Zhuxian didn't listen and directly interrupted her. This senior sister was definitely not someone who wasn't afraid of death. Among them, the smell of blood was getting stronger and stronger. The 3 Burning Sky Palace disciples who were soaked in it gritted their teeth tightly, as if they were desperately resisting some kind of pain. Meng Qi had never experienced this feeling before. But according to her understanding of Fox Su, every time he was soaked in the 5 elements green crane's blood, he was the most talkative. So, it must be uncomfortable. They seemed to be recuperating over there too. Su Junmo suddenly got into the tent and said mysteriously, "It seems that your senior sister Lu Qingran found a way to treat them. They are also recuperating now." "Yeah," Meng Qi answered casually. It was said that senior sister Lu Qingran's medical talent was even above her own. If she could deduce the treatment method, she should be able to do it too. "Why did they say that to you just now?" Su Junmo asked again. "Aren't they your fellow disciples? Why do they seem to be unfriendly to you? It feels like they are looking at you as if you are an enemy." "Yeah," Meng Qi answered casually. "It doesn't matter. They won't be enemies soon anyway." "Huh." Chu Tianfeng's eyes lit up. "You finally decided to come to the Burning Sky Palace?" Meng Qi shook her head. But Elder Zun Yang was right. There is no point in staying in such a sect. She had stayed in the Cool Breeze Valley previously because of Elder Yang. And she was only a Qi refinement cultivator. If she left the Cool Breeze Valley, it would be difficult for her to move around in the 3,000 worlds. But now, she was not so worried. Just now, The jade scroll in heavens beyond vibrated slightly. That was a notification from the divine sense mark that Meng Qi left in it. This also meant that the things she had ordered in heavens beyond had arrived at the relay station. When she returned to Cool Breeze Town, she would be able to get those things. Meng Qi's medical talent was extremely high, but her cultivation was really ordinary. In her previous life, when her medical skills were about to break through to the 4th rank, her cultivation was still at the foundation establishment stage. Later, her mysterious master thought of a way for her. The spirit stones that circulated in the 3,000 worlds contained rich spiritual energy. The grade of the spirit stones was distinguished by the purity and quantity of the spiritual energy contained in them. Cultivators' cultivation was actually to absorb the spiritual energy in the world into their bodies for their own use and to store it bit by bit. When the body could hold enough spiritual energy, it would break through the current level and enter the next realm. It was just that it was not easy to absorb spiritual energy into one's body. Simply put, the richer the spiritual energy in a place, the more suitable it was for cultivation. But such places were often rare, and they were all occupied by large sects. Of course, the spiritual energy contained in the spirit stones was also very rich. It was just that it was impossible to cultivate with the help of the spirit stones. Because it was not of the same origin as the spiritual energy in a cultivator's body. Meng Qi's master really felt that her cultivation speed was too slow. Later, she thought of a way to design an array for her. The function of the array was very simple. It could convert the spiritual energy in the spirit stones into spiritual energy that could be directly used by cultivators for their cultivation. With this array, Meng Qi finally succeeded in forming her core and entering the golden core stage before her medical skills broke through to the 4th rank. She was a little hesitant before. But the Dark North pill was auctioned off at a high price that was beyond her expectations. Meng Qi simply ordered a batch of materials from heavens beyond to draw and activate the array. When these things were gathered, she should be able to cultivate with twice the result with half the effort and become stronger as soon as possible. Meng Qi originally planned to do this when she reached Burnt City to make herself stronger. But now, she changed her mind. Chapter 37. Su Junmo looked curiously at Meng Qi. In the few days they were gone, Zun Yang had asked his disciples to find all the herbs she needed. Meng Qi took out her small cauldron, drew a formation on the ground, and threw 2 spirit stones into it. By the way, she took out the spirit stones Su Junmo gave her from her storage bag. "I'll return them to you." When the 5 elements green crane suddenly appeared, Meng Qi didn't have time to return the spirit stones. She now had a way to earn spirit stones, and Su Junmo had helped her, so she didn't need to accept such spirit stones. "It's just a bit of money, take it." Su Junmo looked at the formation on the ground. If he didn't see wrong, Meng Qi casually threw a 4th grade spirit stone in. This girl was a Qi refinement cultivator herself, and Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiumo were willing to follow her, so they were very generous. It was really amazing. Especially this Cool Breeze Valley, it didn't look like much. Where did Meng Qi get so many spirit stones? Did she collect them to treat someone's illness? Or, Su Junmo narrowed his eyes slightly, and he was more and more certain that Meng Qi was the little Qi who sold the North Deep pill. "That senior sister of yours looks pretty good too." There were only Su Junmo, Meng Qi, and 3 injured Burning Sky Palace disciples in the tent. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiumo were also there, but his talkative nature had already been exposed in front of them, so there was nothing to hide. "Although I shouldn't have spoken up for her, after all, she was just suspecting you, Meng Qi. But she wasn't accusing you unreasonably, and what she said made a bit of sense." Su Junmo circled his fingers, and his thumb and index finger made a very short distance. "So don't be too angry with her. I just asked around, and she stood up because she felt sorry for her Shizuan being wronged. She wasn't targeting you. She's very filial." Meng Qi turned to look at Su Junmo. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiumo also looked at him. There was some gloating in their eyes, and even looked like they were ready to watch a good show. Millimeter Meng Qi responded casually, but she still put the spirit stones aside. Then she turned her attention back to her small medicine cauldron. Meng Qi took out a silver medicine knife and began to process some of the medicinal herbs that were not easy to handle. Su Junmo's heart itched. Now that he was closer, he could clearly see the array formation engraved on the handle of the medicine knife. No matter how he looked at it, it seemed it was made by a demon from the demon world's demons. Devour novel network. Of course, the most powerful person in the heavenly demon realm was his lord. Su Junmo's gaze turned to the miniature fire formation that Meng Qi drew for refining medicine. He was not an expert in formations, but he had been by his master's side for a long time. Under his master's influence, his attainments in this field were far beyond ordinary people. Li fire formation? Su Junmo's eyes were sharp. He recognized it at a glance. It was a miniature version of the Li fire formation. Damn, this is too extravagant. He had already seen the protective formation that even he had been tricked. He had also seen the formation engraved on Meng Qi's first realm medicine knife. Now, he saw the miniature Li fire formation that the other party used to refine medicine. It can actually shrink the Li fire formation. Let me see. Millimeter, there are quite a lot of changes. The original Li fire formation here, and here are stronger. Millimeter, it's superimposed on the other three small formations. This way, the person who drew the formation can control the intensity and time of the fire. Therefore, this grand fire formation was specially modified to be used for alchemy. Is the person who did such a thing crazy? Su Junmo abruptly shut his mouth. The person who did this was probably his master. His wise, mighty, and lofty master who never got close to women. He worked so hard to create this simplified Li fire formation just to please this little Qi disciple cultivator in front of him. This extravagance was simply too much. Should he praise him? Even when it came to coaxing little girls, his master was still lofty, wise, mighty, and invincible. What about it? Meng Qi glanced at Su Junmo and asked. Haha, he's obviously a genius in formations. And he's very patient. He's very handsome at first glance. He's simply too good. Meng Qi was a bit confused, but still nodded. She didn't dare to say anything else. In terms of appearance, Su Junmo, Chu Tianfeng, and Qin Xiumo were all very good-looking. But even if they worked together, they still couldn't beat her esteemed master. Ha ha, ha ha ha. Su Junmo laughed embarrassedly again. Meng Qi wasn't affected at all by what just happened. Her hands were still very steady. The prepared herbs were sent into the small cauldron one by one. The time it took was either long or short. Inside the tent, the smell of blood grew stronger. The expressions of the Burning Sky Palace disciples soaked in the 5 elements green crane blood also became more and more painful. In the cauldron, the herbs finally condensed into a dark brown liquid. Meng Qi calculated the time. After 6 hours, she divided the liquid into 3 portions and poured it into the blood of the 5 elements green crane. Ua, the Burning Sky Palace disciple on the far left, also looked the youngest. His expression suddenly turned pale. He clenched his teeth tightly and still let out a painful sound. It will hurt. Meng Qi said, don't use Ling energy to resist. Okay. That disciple clenched his teeth and nodded lightly. In the blink of an eye, the 3 disciples were sweating profusely. Large beads of sweat slid down their foreheads and quickly entered their blood. The smell of blood in the tent became stronger. Ua! A Burning Sky Palace disciple suddenly moved slowly. There's something. It was rare for him to lose his composure. It came out of my wrist. Me too. Me too. As the 3 disciples spoke, they felt that there seemed to be cold slender crawling out of their wrists. The feeling was very uncomfortable and made their hair stand on end. Goosebumps seemed to crawl all over their bodies. However, they still followed Meng Qi's instructions and obediently soaked in the blood without moving. Soon, the originally calm surface of the blood began to ripple. Fellow Daoist Meng, young palace master, a disciple exclaimed. Look! A vine with a tender green bud slowly poked its head out of the blood. The small leaves swayed gently from side to side as if dancing in the wind. It looked very happy. Who would have thought that such a cute-looking vine would be such a ferocious thing? Don't move. Meng Qi reminded the three burning sky palace disciples. She took out a porcelain bottle from her storage bag and slowly walked over. The porcelain bottle was filled with white powder. Meng Qi carefully sprinkled the powder on the tender leaves on the vine. The vine swayed even more happily, just like how a person would when they were happy. Soon, it grew longer and finally came out of the blood. Meng Qi's left hand had been holding the small silver medicine knife. Now, she could see it clearly. She waved the medicine knife, and it steadily cut the vine's last leaf. The young divine devouring vine that was swaying happily just now seemed to wither instantly. The tender leaves fell off and fell back into the blood. The smell of blood instantly filled the air. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiumo could not help but look away. Only Su Junmo looked at this scene in shock. The divine devouring vine was a plant unique to the demon realm. The Red Fox clan, which had always been at odds with the White Fox clan, had two talented demon cultivators. They racked their brains to refine this divine devouring vine into a weapon. In the beginning, the demon realm did not know how powerful the divine devouring vine was. Even if they were injured by it, they did not take it seriously. Gradually, those people who were injured by the divine devouring vines were found dead. Their flesh and blood had been sucked dry, and only a layer of skin was left on their skeletons. These terrifying vines were entrenched on their skeletons. This kind of thing happened many times. At that time, the Demon Lord issued a Demon Lord order to prohibit the use of the divine devouring vine as a weapon. The entire demon realm was to exterminate this terrifying plant that could use flesh and blood as nourishment. The divine devouring vine seemed to have disappeared from the demon realm. For a long time, no demon cultivators were injured by this vine. However, 1,000 years later, they discovered that the divine devouring vine was not completely exterminated. Some demon cultivators also saw the divine devouring vine in the demon realm. However, at that time, the demon realm was in chaos. The demon realm's aristocrats, who had stood at the peak of the demon realm for thousands of years, started a 3,000-year-long civil war. After the war ended, people were plunged into misery and suffering. The entire demon realm was originally divided into 9 heavens. 3 of them were almost razed to the ground. The fallen star sea in the center of the demon realm was filled with a bloody aura. It was said that countless great demon cultivators who had died in that civil war were buried there. The divine devouring vine grew crazily in this civil war. After the war ended, no cultivator could kill it anymore. However, the new demon lord still issued a strict order to prohibit the divine devouring vine from being brought into the 3,000 realms and the demon realm. This thing was also a terrifying existence for the demonic cultivators. Demon cultivators injured by the divine devouring vine could only be killed by a peak stage demon cultivator if they were willing to sacrifice their cultivation level. They had to reconstruct their flesh and blood. Otherwise, they would just be waiting for death. Su Junmo watched as Meng Qi cleanly killed the young divine devouring vine and felt dazzled. At that moment, he felt that he seemed to have understood why his lord valued this mere Qi refinement cultivator. Looks were secondary. The key was that she was really too powerful. Just like that, she easily solved the problem of the divine devouring vine. Just based on this point, she was qualified to be a guest of honor in the demon realm. Meng Qi did the same thing and killed the divine devouring vines in the bodies of the other 2 burning sky palace disciples. It was easy for her to do it now, but in her previous life, when she saved Fox Su, it took her a whole 3 months. At that time, she did not have any books to refer to and could only try it out bit by bit. The talkative fox was really talkative. Although she was in so much pain, she still told Meng Qi everything she knew about the divine devouring vine. Also, the ones who injured the 3 burning sky palace disciples were only those red fox girls. Otherwise, it would not be so simple. Those divine devouring vine sprouts that Meng Qi killed fell back into the blood and instantly melted. Soak in it for another hour. Meng Qi said to the 3 disciples, this can make up for some of the spirit qi absorbed by it during this time. Thank you, fellow Daoist Meng. The 3 burning sky palace disciples raised their wrists at the same time. The strange vines that came out of their wrists had completely disappeared. Their wrists were as clean as before, and only a small red mark was left. Other than that, there were no other traces. Meng Qi was also very tired. She kept her things and nodded at Chu Tianfeng and the others. Then, she turned around and walked out of the tent. The Burning Sky Palace had prepared a separate tent for her. If not for Lu Qingran suddenly questioning her, Meng Qi could still rest for a while. Before entering the tent, she turned around and looked behind her. Most of the Cool Breeze Valley disciples were guarding outside one of the tents. Lu Qingran should be inside treating the injured disciples. She did not know what method Lu Qingran would use to treat the people injured by the divine devouring vine. Meng Qi walked into the tent and pondered. She had heard from her previous life that everyone said that senior Lu Qingran was extremely talented in medical skills and was rarely seen in the world. She had seen true geniuses. Regardless of whether they were sword cultivators or dharma cultivators, they always learned things very quickly and could infer other things by analogy. Meng Qi could not help but feel her heart itch. However, she knew that the Cool Breeze Valley would not let her watch. Slightly disappointed, Meng Qi sighed softly and took out the beast house from her storage bag. After Su Junmo joined, she did not let little Qi come out to breathe. It had been 5 days. The small beast house flashed, and the little white tiger appeared on the small bed in the tent. It was still lying there lazily, and its blue eyes were slightly more lustrous. Meng Qi habitually reached out and rubbed its fluffy little head. When we return to the Cool Breeze Valley, I will get what I need. Then, we will leave Cool Breeze Town and go to the Burning City, Meng Qi said to him. She had already thought about it. Now, she had more than 200 100-grade spirit stones with her. Just these spirit stones alone were definitely enough to raise her to the perfected foundation establishment stage. This way, her ability to protect herself would be stronger than before. As for forming her core, she would wait until she reached the Burning City. Meng Qi made up her mind and was about to pack up and rest. Suddenly, Fox Su's voice came from outside the tent. Meng Qi, I suddenly remembered. As he spoke, he pushed open the door and strode in. Meng Qi did not have time to put away the little white tiger. She could only dodge and block in front of little Qi. Hey! Su Junmo immediately noticed little Qi. This is. He went forward curiously and looked closer at little Qi. The white tiger spirit beast from the Trichilia chasm? It looks quite similar to the white tiger spirit beast in our demon world. As Su Junmo spoke, he reached out and wanted to scratch little Qi's chin. But there are still some differences. Meng Qi was slightly relieved. She was originally worried that Su Junmo would recognize little Qi's identity. She did not expect the little guy to hide it so well that it could even fool this fox. Strange beasts are not easy to train. Meng Qi, if you need help, feel free to come to me. Although I have never raised a strange beast before, I am definitely more experienced than you in dealing with them, Su Junmo said as his fingers were about to touch little Qi's chin. Little white tiger, who was originally lying lazily, suddenly turned its head and tilted its head to the side. Meng Qi's back was facing him at this time, so she did not see it. When little Qi avoided Su Junmo's claws, its half-closed azure eyes suddenly opened. There was a flash of starlight in its eyes. Meng Qi did not see it, but Su Junmo saw it clearly. He suddenly opened his eyes wide and looked at the little white tiger in front of him in disbelief. Did he see wrongly? What flashed in its eyes just now was the shadow of the Big Dipper. Then wouldn't this little white tiger be, wouldn't he be? Chapter 38. What are you trying to do? Meng Qi turned around and saw Su Junmo striding toward little Qi. He reached out and was about to touch little white tiger's head. But before he could touch it, he retreated as if he was scalded. Nothing. Su Junmo, who could talk non-stop for half a day, stuttered for the first time. He took a step back and looked at little white tiger in bewilderment. Little Qi had already laid down lazily again. He rested his chin on his uninjured paw, which was wrapped in a soft silk cloth. He glanced at Su Junmo lazily with his blue eyes, looking innocent and clear. Nothing, Su Junmo murmured and repeated. Meng Qi had already stood between him and little Qi, glaring at him warily. This This is. Su Junmo stuttered, not knowing how to ask. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind. Did he see wrongly? The stars in Little White Tiger's eyes were unique to the Sky Demon White Tiger clan. Wasn't Lord's eyes also the Big Dipper stars? So this little fellow, could it be? Su Junmo quickly glanced at Meng Qi, then quickly looked away. Meng Qi still looked very young. He looked like he was 17 or 18 years old, and the youthful elegance on his face had not completely faded. My lord is really ruthless. Su Junmo cursed silently in his heart, but he did not dare to say anything. After a long while, Su Junmo finally sorted out his complicated emotions. He took a deep look at Meng Qi, who was protecting Little White Tiger behind him. The more he looked, the more he resembled, protecting his cub. Su Junmo took a deep breath and said with a complicated expression, I'm going out. Meng Qi did not say anything. He watched Su Junmo turn around silently and leave the tent quickly. His footsteps seemed a little frantic, and he even staggered when he was about to leave. The sound of footsteps didn't go far away. After going out, he should be guarding the door. Meng Qi turned around and looked at little Qi, who was obediently lying on her stomach. Did Fox Su discover something? She mused. But that shouldn't be the case. With his personality, if he really discovered something, he definitely wouldn't be able to hold it in. Meng Qi turned around and rubbed little Qi's head. She lowered her head and looked into the Little White Tiger's eyes. He shouldn't have discovered your identity, right? Meng Qi asked uncertainly. Su Junmo came in too quickly just now, so she didn't have time to let little Qi go back to the beast house. Moreover, many disciples of Cool Breeze Valley and Burning Sky Palace knew that she had a little white tiger. There was no way he could hide it. Instead of hiding Little White Tiger in a panic, it would make Su Junmo even more suspicious. He might as well be more generous. Right now, Su Junmo's cultivation was about the same as Elder Zun Yang's. If even Zun Yang couldn't discover little Qi's true appearance, Fox Su shouldn't be able to discover it either. Little Qi tilted its head slightly and rubbed its head against Meng Qi's palm. Meng Qi couldn't help but smile as its soft fur rubbed against her fingers. She was indeed tired. She turned over and lay down on the bed, hugging little Qi and placing it beside her. The camp tent was simple and crude, and the bed was just an ordinary bamboo bed. I'm going to sleep for a while. Meng Qi yawned and slowly closed her eyes. Her breathing gradually became long. Little Qi leaned on her arm and quickly fell asleep, just like it did in Cool Breeze Valley. Outside the tent, Su Junmo didn't leave. He paced back and forth, full of doubts, but didn't know who to ask. In any case, he wouldn't dare to ask his lord even if he was beaten to death. Su Junmo paced around for an unknown number of times. What are you doing? Chu Tianfeng's cold voice sounded behind him. He and Qin Shomor walked towards him side by side. Both of them looked at Su Junmo warily. You two are finally here. Su Junmo jumped to Chu Tianfeng's side. After interacting with each other for a few days in the forest, he revealed his true nature from the beginning. He might as well not hide it at all in front of these two people. Do you know that Meng Qi has a little white tiger? Su Junmo asked. We know. Chu Tianfeng nodded. A trace of vigilance flashed through his eyes. When Meng Qi went to gather herbs, she picked it up from the valley next to Cool Breeze Valley. It was an injured little white tiger. He suddenly felt a little proud. Could this be considered a secret between him and Meng Qi? I was with her at that time. Is there a problem? A little white tiger. That's right. Chu Tianfeng said, I don't know what hurt it. Meng Qi saw that it was pitiful and took it back to treat its injury. It looks a lot better recently. She should be preparing to raise it as a spiritual pet. So it's not Meng Qi who gave birth to it. Su Junmo suddenly shut up. What are you thinking? Before he finished speaking, Chu Tianfeng guessed what he meant. How is that possible? She picked it up not long ago. It was about a month ago. I see. Su Junmo nodded absent-mindedly. Just now, he had already imagined a big show between His Majesty the Demon Lord and his little runaway wife with a ball. In short, it was all kinds of sadistic love, lingering sorrow, and parting in life and death. So it was picked up. Then did he really see wrongly just now? Su Junmo turned to look at the tent where Meng Qi was resting. In fact, the shadow of the stars in the little white tiger's eyes just now was just a flash. In the blink of an eye, it completely disappeared. He had always been sharp, so he shouldn't have seen wrongly. Su Junmo frowned. The heavenly demon White Tiger clan was already the royal clan among the heavenly demons. 3 to 4 out of 10 demon kings were chosen from the heavenly demon White Tiger clan. Even the current demon king, his master, was also the White Tiger true lord. The heavenly demon White Tiger clan was very powerful, but its members were very few. Using the method of calculating age in the demon realm, his master had already reached adulthood thousands of years ago and had become the White Tiger clan's true lord for nearly 500 years. He still had no partner. Not to mention a partner who knew how many young, beautiful, and enchanting female demon cultivators in the demon realm wanted to become his master's lover. He never pretended to speak. Naturally, he didn't have any children. Su Junmo couldn't remember how long it had been since he last saw a young heavenly demon White Tiger. So he might really have seen wrongly. He shook his head and even found it a little funny. Did this mean that the eunuch was more anxious than the emperor? Su Junmo and the other two chatted in low voices for a while. Not far away, the door of the largest tent where the Cool Breeze Valley disciples were gathered suddenly opened. The Cool Breeze Valley sect master and Lu Qingran walked out side by side. Lan Zhuxian followed closely behind them. She was in high spirits, and it was impossible to tell that she had just been injured. The Cool Breeze Valley disciples outside the tent all crowded around and greeted the sect leader at the same time. In an instant, the tent became lively. Chu Tianfeng frowned. No wonder even Elder Zun Yang, who had always been a good person, couldn't stand it anymore and said such harsh words. The Cool Breeze Valley was really too scattered from top to bottom. They were still in the wilderness, far away from the sect. Chu Tianfeng knew that young Master Scarlet Fox, who had followed and ambushed them previously, had been dealt with. But these people didn't know. Starting from the sect master, they seemed to have completely forgotten about this matter. From just now, no one was in charge of guarding. That wasn't right. Chu Tianfeng's gaze drifted to the entrance of the camp. There, Elder Yang Mingfeng sat cross-legged with a dark brown cauldron floating beside him. Of course she's fine. Lan Zhuxuan's voice was very loud and excited. Could it be that without her, we could only wait for death? Junior Sister Lu's talent is far above hers. If she can do it, Junior Sister Lu can naturally do it too. Senior Sister Lan. Lu Qingran shook her head and said gently, "You can't say that. If Junior Sister Meng hadn't discovered that you were injured by the divine devouring vine, I wouldn't have thought of a way to cure you so quickly. So, Junior Sister Meng still deserves the most credit for this matter." She sighed softly. "I really shouldn't have doubted Junior Sister like that just now, but I really can't accept others talking about Master like that." "What?" Lan Zhuxian disagreed. "If she hadn't insisted on finding the 5 elements green crane and affected your train of thought, you might have thought of a way to cure us long ago. We wouldn't have to worry for so long." Her voice became louder and louder, and in the end, it sounded like she was shouting with all her might. Qin Xiumor looked at her coldly. "Lower your voice." Lan Zhuxuan's face turned pale. She had been taught a lesson by Qin Xiumor twice, so she was a bit scared of him. She subconsciously moved closer to Lu Qingran and the Cool Breeze Valley Master. Then, she glared at Qin Xiumor and said loudly, "I heard from Junior Sister Lu that you encountered a problem during your cultivation. But why do you have to ask Meng Qi to cure you? She's just a Qi refinement cultivator, and her cultivation isn't as good as mine. She's only been in the sect for half a year. She just likes to scare people. Our Junior Sister Lu's medical talent is far better than hers. If you ask her to take a look at you, you might recover faster." Lu Qingran blushed. She quickly glanced at Qin Xiumor and carefully pulled Lan Zhuxuan's sleeve. "Senior Sister Lan, don't say that. Junior Sister Meng is also very powerful." "How powerful?" "I heard from Junior Brother that the 3 disciples she treated in the Burning Sky Palace are still soaking in stinking blood." Lan Zhuxian sneered. "We're still better off. We don't need to endure that kind of pain. Hey. Lan Zhuxian looked at Qin Shomor again. Are you really not going to ask our junior sister Lu to give it a try? Be careful not to be fooled by Meng Qi. She's very good at putting on airs. Maybe your problem isn't serious at all. With a light buzz sound, Qin Shomor's lifebound sword appeared in the air beside him. He didn't even say anything, and his sword pierced through the air. The Cool Breeze Valley disciples only saw a silver light flash through the air. Fellow Daoist, please have mercy. The Cool Breeze Valley master suddenly made a move, and directly threw a magic tool into the air. With a clang sound, the magic tool was cut in half and fell to the ground. But because of this, Qin Shomor's sword was still a bit crooked, and it swept past the top of Lan Zhuxian's head. Lan Zhuxian almost fainted from fright. She really didn't expect that this handsome man in black, who looked like a fiend, would actually make a move. He didn't show any mercy in front of their sect master. A piece of hair on Lan Zhuxian's head that had been cut off slowly floated down from the air. The sword returned to Qin Shomor's side and floated in the air. The tip of the sword was even colder than his gaze. Just like that, it coldly pointed at the Cool Breeze Valley disciples. Lan Zhuxian shrunk her neck in fright and hid behind the sect master. The Cool Breeze Valley sect master looked at her magic tool that had been cut in half with heartache. But she couldn't not save her disciple when she was in trouble. Chu Tianfeng sneered, and looked at them with a smile that wasn't a smile. Even Su Junmo was a bit surprised. His cultivation was above Qin Shomor's, and he could see that the other party really wanted to kill them just now. Only Lu Qing ran. She gently bit her lower lip and took a step forward without fear. Fellow Daoist, that day at the cold lake, I also checked your body. If you don't mind, why don't you let me have a try? I mind. Qin Shomor indifferently interrupted Lu Qing Ran's words. There's no need. Lu Qing Ran gently bit her lower lip, and her eyes reddened. Qin Shomor didn't even look at her. He turned around and walked towards the tent where Meng Qi was resting. Chu Tianfeng hurriedly followed him. Now only Su Junmo stayed where he was. The two brothers behind him put their arms around Qin Shomor's shoulders and laughed in a low voice that only the two of them could hear. That guy seems to be infatuated with Lu Qing Ran. Heh, that's true. Chu Tianfeng tilted his head slightly and quickly looked back at Su Junmo. Later on, she got along very well with him. Do you still remember? From you to him, you don't even need to change the way you address him. Brother Mo, Qin Shomor. He flew into a rage and thrust his sword at Chu Tianfeng with a backhand thrust. Chu Tianfeng knew that he wouldn't really do anything to him, so he blocked it out of courtesy. Should we remind him? He asked again in a low voice. He won't believe it, Qin Shomor said. Both of them could hear a bit of schadenfreude in each other's tone. Su Junmo was quite strong, but in front of that person, he was still far from enough. I saw him shamelessly pestering you. I thought he also remembered something. It seems that he has nothing to do with Meng Qi. Chu Tianfeng said, then we don't need to worry about him. Qin Shomor nodded. The two of them quickly exchanged opinions and simply stood side by side outside Meng Qi's tent. With the deterrence of Qin Shomor's sword, the disciples of Cool Breeze Valley became much more obedient. They still gathered in twos and threes, whispering about something. In the end, no one dared to disturb Meng Qi again. Meng Qi directly slept all the way until the next morning. She opened her eyes and felt refreshed. The tiredness from the past few days was swept away. The tent was quiet. Little Qi was still leaning on her arm, its fluffy head pressed against her. It breathed deeply and slept soundly. Meng Qi opened her eyes and lay on the bed for a while. She took a deep breath and carefully turned over to sit up. She didn't want to wake little Qi up, but who knew that as soon as she moved? Little White Tiger opened its eyes and looked at her. Sleep a little longer. Meng Qi rubbed its head. She conjured a spell to summon clean water and quickly washed up. Then she opened the tent and walked out. Outside the tent, the disciples of Burning Sky Palace had already packed up and were ready to leave. The unused body and blood of the 5 elements green crane were also put into Chu Tianfeng's storage bag. After what happened yesterday, The disciples of Cool Breeze Valley didn't talk to Burning Sky Palace anymore. Everyone knew that Elder Zun Yang was angry anyway, so Cool Breeze Valley probably couldn't join Burning Sky Palace and enjoy the protection of a large sect. Some disciples still felt that it was a pity. After all, they had the backing of a sect that could be ranked in the top 10 in the East Border, which was definitely better than Cool Breeze Valley. After Lan Zhuxian was cured by Lu Qingran, she completely stood on her side. Since being threatened by Qin Xiumor yesterday, she had been sparing no effort to preach to the disciples of Cool Breeze Valley. They had an extremely talented cultivator like Lu Qingran, so Cool Breeze Valley would be revived sooner or later. They didn't need to rely on others' charity and look at others' eyes. Everyone thought it was right. The injuries that Meng Qi, whom Burning Sky Palace's elders and young palace master admired, could be cured by their junior sister Lu after a few days of pondering. In terms of talent, she was definitely better than Meng Qi. With her, why would Cool Breeze Valley worry about not prospering? So when Meng Qi had rested enough and walked out of the tent, everyone in Cool Breeze Valley looked at her as if they were looking at a traitor, full of hostility. Meng Qi didn't care. Her gaze swept over the injured disciples. Their faces looked a lot rosier and there were smiles on their faces. It seemed that they were fine. After returning to Cool Breeze Valley today, we will go to Burning City. Chu Tianfeng walked to her side. Come with us. No need. Meng Qi shook her head. She was preparing to leave Cool Breeze Valley. She had thought of spending money to ask Burning Sky Palace to take her to Burning City. After all, it was the closest city to the west border. No matter what she saw in the light screen that Chu Tianfeng showed her, she was still willing to believe in Shizuan. She believed that he was just as he said, from a hidden sect in the west border. You're not going to Burning City? Chu Tianfeng asked immediately. I'm going. Meng Qi's gaze passed him and landed on Qin Xiumor, who was not far behind him. She explained, Qin Xiumor owes me spirit stones, so I hired him to escort me to Burning City. Damn. Chu Tianfeng instantly turned around and glared fiercely at Qin Xiumor. At this time, he had completely forgotten that they had agreed to be allies and unite to deal with that terrifying guy. All he wanted to do was to get rid of this despicable guy. Why didn't he think of that? Chu Tianfeng was extremely annoyed. Young Palace Master Chu. Meng Qi didn't forget to remind him. You haven't paid the spirit stones to treat your Burning Sky Palace disciples. I don't have the money either. Chu Tianfeng almost squeezed these words out from between his teeth. Oh. Meng Qi nodded. Then I'll go find them. Wait. Chu Tianfeng hurriedly stopped her. They're just ordinary disciples of Burning Sky Palace. They're very poor. Meng Qi, how about this? Chu Tianfeng's mind was spinning fast at this time. You'll go with us. This journey to Burning City is extremely dangerous. Meng Qi, was Chu Tianfeng bullying her for being insensible? She had never been to Burning City in this life, but she had been there in her previous life. There were transportation arrays between all the major cities. The 10-odd days of travel from Qingfeng Town to Burning City was indeed very dangerous for a qi refinement cultivator. With Qin Xiumor, a cultivator who had recovered to the 3rd or 4th level of Golden Core, by her side, Meng Qi felt that it was completely enough. I want spirit stones. Meng Qi insisted. She was preparing to activate the array to help her cultivate. The spirit stones were like flowing water. I don't have money. Chu Tianfeng was also very insistent. Meng Qi looked at him deeply. I'll go find Elder Zun Yang. Hey! Meng Qi. Chu Tianfeng could not afford to lose face like this. He hurriedly pulled Meng Qi again. He knew that she would really do it. After all, she had already asked for money once and was very familiar with it. I'll give. Chu Tianfeng took out the spirit stones that they had agreed on previously from his storage bag and handed them to Meng Qi. Bikij. Cici, thank you, young Palace Master Chu. Meng Qi cupped her hands at him and turned to leave. Qin Xiumor laughed proudly. He did not care about the extremely ugly expression on Chu Tianfeng's face and quickly followed Meng Qi. I'm going to Qingfeng Town first, Meng Qi said to him. Then I'll go back to Qingfeng Valley. She glanced at Qin Xiumor. To completely heal your injury, I still need some special medicine. I've already asked someone to buy it, but I may not be able to get it for the time being. There's no rush. Qin Shomor said leisurely, take your time. Anyway, I still owe you so much. He slightly dragged out his voice. Spirit stones, I'm only at the 3rd or 4th stage of the Golden Core realm now. I'm very cheap. I won't be able to pay you back in a short time. There's no need to rush. Meng Qi, she never knew that when a person said that he was very cheap, he could actually show such a slightly proud expression. Meng Qi shook her head, too lazy to think about these two strange people. Anyway, there was only spirit stones between them. She returned to her tent. Little Qi had already returned to the beast house, and had been put into Meng Qi's bracelet storage bag. Qin Shomor stood guard at the door, watching as Meng Qi took out a paper crane from the storage bag. I only have this flying talisman, she explained. What about you? Oh, Qin Shomor said. This thing can become bigger, it can sit 2 people. Jindan Shouja could actually already fly on their swords. But he was only a half-baked Jindan Shouja right now. It was okay to move for a short time, but if he really used his Ling energy to fly on his sword back to Qingfeng Valley, it probably would not be good. Meng Qi nodded. Then let's go. As she spoke, she put the paper crane in the air, and embedded a 2nd-grade spirit stone in the head of the paper crane. The paper crane instantly became longer than a person. Meng Qi sat on it, and Qin Shomor also sat on the paper crane without any courtesy. Let's go to Qingfeng town first. She also no longer stayed with the disciples of Qingfeng Valley. Ever since she made up her mind to leave the sect, these people's thoughts could no longer affect her. The paper crane did not fly fast, but it was still better than Elder Lu's paper boat that could accommodate many people when she first came. Meng Qi used 3 2nd-grade spirit stones and finally returned to Qingfeng town that afternoon. She asked Qin Shomor to wait for her in the tea house in Qingfeng town, and she went to the Sky Beyond Sky Post station to get the formation materials she bought. Then she went to the Cloud Immortal Pavilion and bought a storage bag with more space. Her original bracelet storage bag was not enough for her, so she transferred everything inside, including the beast house, into the new storage bag. After doing these things, Meng Qi returned to the tea house and called Qin Shomor. She did not use the paper crane, but walked towards Qingfeng Valley. Meng Qi had been in Qingfeng Valley for more than half a year. Even if she counted her previous life, she had only been in the sect for more than a year. It was impossible to say that she had no feelings at all. Meng Qi was silent. She walked along the mountain path that she had walked countless times in her previous life, and walked step by step towards the peak of Qingfeng Valley. You can't bear to leave. Qin Shomor seemed to have guessed her thoughts. He followed in silence all the way, and suddenly asked, why? People are not plants. Meng Qi said, Qingfeng Valley took me into the sect to become a cultivator. Here, I had the most ignorant time. Hara Qin Shomor sneered. He straightened his back and looked back to the south. Do you know why I appeared at the bottom of the cold lake? He said. Meng Qi did not speak. She was not good at lying, but in fact, she knew about this. Not only did she know that Qin Shomor was betrayed by his close friend, but she also knew how he later took revenge on his close friend. The little demon lord's cruel and cold reputation had also spread throughout the southern land. I was betrayed by my close friend, and was injured by him during the tribulation. I went mad and almost died. Qin Shomor reached out and stroked his arm. His close friend's first strike had been here. The wound had already been treated by Meng Qi, and there was not even a trace left behind. But that bone-deep pain and coldness was something that he could never forget. Later, the indifference of the sect, Shizuan's method of raising disciples like raising insects, and the lover who loved him wholeheartedly moved on, and in the end, when everyone felt that he was hopeless and gave up on him, that slender figure, still dressed in a green robe and carrying a faint medicinal fragrance, hurried over. Meng Qi. Qin Shomor smiled. Remember one thing. He turned to look at Meng Qi. In the future, if someone betrays you and wrongly accuses you, don't waste words, just kill them. He paused, and then slowly said, I know you can do it. As long as you don't always have a soft heart. As he spoke, he took a step closer to her. The mountain wind blew Qin Shomor's black robe, making it flutter. He looked into Meng Qi's eyes and said in a low voice, word by word, including me. If I betray you and hurt you, you can just kill me with a single slash. Junior sister Meng Qi. Junior sister Meng Qi. On the mountain path, a few anxious calls came from afar, breaking the strange silence between Meng Qi and Qin Shumo. Two Cool Breeze Valley disciples in green robes quickly ran along the mountain path. When they saw Meng Qi, it was as if they had found a life-saving straw, and they hurriedly rushed towards her. Junior sister Meng Qi, I finally found you. The disciple panted. Hurry back and take a look. The fellow disciple who was injured by the divine devouring vine is now rolling on the ground in pain. It looks very, very scary. Chapter 39. As the Cool Breeze Valley disciple spoke, he hurriedly ran to Meng Qi's side and reached out to grab her arm. Meng Qi dodged his outstretched hand and asked calmly, what happened? The Cool Breeze Valley disciple subconsciously frowned when he saw her calmly avoiding him. When he spoke again, his voice was calmer than before. Junior sister Meng Qi also knows about the fellow disciples who were injured by the divine devouring vines. They were clearly fine before, but I don't know why junior sister Lan Zhuxian was the first to have problems after returning to the sect. The Cool Breeze Valley disciple looked at Meng Qi and deliberately emphasized the words Lan Zhuxian. He stared at Meng Qi without blinking, as if he wanted to see something different from her face. And then, Meng Qi asked calmly. She continued to walk toward the sect and asked the disciple, apart from rolling on the ground in pain, what else happened? What else happened? The Cool Breeze Valley disciple was stunned. Then the sect master and the elders went to check on them. Elder Lu sent us to look for junior sister Meng Qi separately. Meng Qi. She quickened her pace. Qin Shumo also immediately followed. He stood quietly on Meng Qi's right and separated her from the Cool Breeze Valley disciple. He smiled, and a hint of mockery flashed in his eyes. What about the Burning Sky Palace disciples who were also injured by the divine devouring vines? The Cool Breeze Valley disciple was stunned again. He peeked at Meng Qi from Qin Shumo and stuttered, They seem to be fine. Qin Shumo laughed happily. The Cool Breeze Valley disciple was dissatisfied, but he also knew that this was an expert that even the sect master could not do anything about. He was definitely not his match. He could only shut his mouth obediently and walk to the far right. You really want to care about their lives? Qin Shumo lazily glanced at the silent disciple and said, Have you forgotten how they treated you before? As he spoke, he intentionally or unintentionally glanced at the Cool Breeze Valley disciple. They don't trust you, they doubt you, they slander you, they act high and mighty in front of you, he said. Let's go back and see them rolling on the ground. You. The Cool Breeze Valley disciple had just opened his mouth when Qin Shumo's cold gaze swept over him. He was so scared that he quickly shut his mouth and didn't dare to say anything else. However, there was a voice in the bottom of her heart telling her that this person was right. All the disciples of Cool Breeze Valley had seen clearly how they had treated Meng Qi. They really distrusted her and doubted her. Especially Lan Zhuxian, she was the one who clamored the loudest. Junior sister Meng. He opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. Let's go back first, Meng Qi said calmly. They weren't far from where Cool Breeze Valley was. The three sped up and quickly returned to the sect. Before they entered the main hall, Meng Qi heard wails coming from inside. The wails were heart-wrenching and seemed to be of both males and females. It sounded extremely terrifying. Cool Breeze Valley was a medical sect, and all of their disciples cultivated. This kind of wail didn't seem like something a shoujo would make. Meng Qi glanced at the disciple. The other carefully explained, We were all gathered in the main hall just now to discuss the gains and losses of participating in this mission. And whether or not to accept the recruitment of Burning Sky Palace. He paused, his voice becoming lower and lower. Then the Shamai, Shixiang, and Shidi that were injured before suddenly shouted and fell to the ground, and became like this. Meng Qi nodded and walked side by side with Qin Xiumo into the main hall of Cool Breeze Valley. There were at least 50 or 60 people gathered in the main hall. The Cool Breeze Valley sect master, Lu Qingran, Elder Lu, and Elder Yang were all there. Even Zun Yang had rushed over after hearing the news. At this moment, they were standing in a corner of the main hall, looking at the chaotic scene in front of them helplessly. Chu Tianfeng was standing beside Zun Yang. When he saw Meng Qi enter, his eyes lit up, and he immediately walked toward them. "Shamai, Meng Qi is back." It was unknown who shouted, but the hall suddenly became quiet. Except for the few disciples who couldn't bear the pain and were rolling on the ground. Almost everyone looked in the direction of Meng Qi, who was at the entrance of the main hall. Meng Qi. The Cool Breeze Valley sect master heaved a sigh of relief. She straightened her body and anxiously called out to Meng Qi. "Quickly come and take a look. Their divine devouring vines injuries are acting up." Meng Qi frowned. In the main hall of Cool Breeze Valley, the originally faint medicinal fragrance had been replaced by the sweet fragrance of white peaches. Meng Qi walked toward the few injured disciples. The closer he got, the stronger the sweet fragrance became. Before he even got close, the fragrance was so strong that it was intoxicating. "Shamai, Meng Qi." Lu Qingran's eyes were red. She had probably just cried. Her long eyelashes were wet with tears, and the tip of her delicate nose was red. She looked pitiful and cute. They. Lu Qingran had just opened her mouth when tears rolled down her cheeks like pearls from a broken necklace. "It's all my fault." Lu Qingran's tears fell quickly. "I harmed them. It's all my fault. I'm not good enough, but I still wanted to show off. Boo-hoo. Master, it's all my fault. I harmed them." Qingran. The sect master sighed. "This is not your fault. Don't cry." "That's right, Shamai Lu. This is not your fault. Don't blame yourself too much." Another sect master's personal disciple also comforted Lu Qingran in a soft voice. "You also wanted to save them. No one would have thought that things would turn out like this." "That's right, Shamai Lu. Don't cry." They. Another disciple looked at the injured disciples who were in so much pain that they no longer had the strength to roll around and were lying helplessly on the ground. "They probably won't blame you. But..." Lu Qingran's eyes were hazy with tears. "But, if it wasn't for me, they would be fine now. It's not your fault, Shamai Lu. Shamai Lu, don't be sad. Shamai Meng will save them." "That's right. Shamai Meng will definitely have a way." "That's right. Shamai Meng will cure them." Shamai Meng Qi. As if being reminded, Lu Qingran reached out and grabbed Meng Qi's arm. "I beg you, you must save them." Meng Qi raised her eyebrows and looked down at Lu Qingran's hand on her arm. She raised her head again and looked at Lu Qingran, who was crying like a pear blossom. A beauty's tears were the most heartbreaking. Those disciples who were lying on the ground in so much pain that they wanted to die were all because of Lu Qingran. They were the ones who were in pain. Meng Qi was the innocent one who was wronged. But now, those Cool Breeze Valley disciples were still comforting Lu Qingran. Meng Qi tilted her head slightly. She suddenly understood a little why she was always so unlucky in her previous life. "Shamai Meng Qi, don't delay anymore. Hurry up and save them." At this time, another Cool Breeze Valley disciple urged. "That's right. Hurry up and save them. Where did you run off to? We looked everywhere in the sect for you but couldn't find you." Another disciple said. Meng Qi raised her eyebrows and the corners of her lips curled up. She pulled her arm back from Lu Qingran's hand and took a step back. "I can save them." She threw a bamboo slip at Lu Qingran. "One disciple costs 500 8th grade spirit stones. Shamai Lu, you can write the IOU first." The Cool Breeze Valley main hall suddenly became incomparably quiet. Even the sect master and Elder Lu looked at Meng Qi in astonishment. The disciples in the main hall looked at her like they were looking at a monster. Lu Qingran's eyes were full of disbelief as she looked at her with wide eyes in surprise. 500 8th grade spirit stones for one person. Then these people added up. Lu Qingran looked blankly at the injured Cool Breeze Valley disciples lying in the main hall. 1, 2, 3, There were a total of 7 people. That was 3 ninth grade spirit stones and 500 8th grade spirit stones. All the Cool Breeze Valley disciples present sucked in a breath of cold air. They probably didn't even have a fraction of their total assets. But why was it so expensive? Previously at the camp, Shamai Meng also said that she needed to collect money to save people. But she clearly didn't need that much. And at that time, didn't she only say that she needed to collect money from male disciples? 9th grade spirit stones. Not to mention Lu Qingran, this Juji cultivator. Even the Cool Breeze Valley sect master might not be able to take out that many spirit stones. Meng Qi didn't care about everyone's reactions and turned to squat down. She took out a porcelain bottle from her storage bag and quickly stuffed 2 pills into the mouths of each injured disciple. The pills had the effect of relieving pain. Once it entered their mouths, those disciples who had no strength and were groaning in pain slowly calmed down. The main hall became even quieter. Lu Qingran held the bamboo slip that Meng Qi threw to her and turned to look blankly at her Shizuan. Shizuan. After a long while, she called out with red eyes and grievance. Meng Qi. The Cool Breeze Valley sect master finally came back to her senses. She coughed lightly and awkwardly called out to Meng Qi. Here. Meng Qi stood and turned around, responding crisply. Junior Sister Meng. Another direct disciple of the sect master saw that his Shizuan was in a difficult position and carefully looked at Meng Qi. You must be joking with us, right? Ha ha, ha ha ha. No. Meng Qi smiled. I'm not joking. Junior Sister Meng. That disciple looked at the sect master and then at Meng Qi. The Cool Breeze Valley sect master's expression wasn't very good. That disciple could only brace himself and continue to persuade Meng Qi. Don't take what happened before to heart. They didn't do it on purpose. At the time, everyone was injured and worried. They didn't suspect you or target you on purpose. Meng Qi nodded, indicating that she accepted. We're all from the same sect. Senior Sister's words are wrong. Meng Qi calmly interrupted her. Earlier, it was Elder Lu who summoned us to support our fellow disciples who went out to kill demons. When I went, my fellow disciples were injured. If I could save them, of course I would. Because I treated you all. Her clear and cold gaze swept across the Cool Breeze Valley disciples in the main hall. As fellow disciples, I can understand that Senior Sister Lan Zhuxian doesn't trust me. After all, as a junior sister, my cultivation level is low and I've only been in the sect for a short time. It's understandable that Senior Sister doesn't trust me. Meng Qi continued. Her expression was calm, and her figure looked so thin and slender. But when she spoke, no disciple dared to interrupt her. It's natural for Senior Sister Lu to blame me for Shizuan. Meng Qi reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Senior Sister and Senior Brothers stand on Senior Sister Lu's side and accuse me of being a traitor of the Cool Breeze Valley. It's also your freedom. Fan Tuan was reading. Junior Sister Meng Qi. That disciple hurriedly said, you misunderstood. At that time, everyone was really too worried, so maybe their tone was a little too harsh. You know Junior Sister Lan Zhuxuan's temper. She's like this. She speaks very straightforwardly and is a little narrow-minded. Now that she's injured, you should be more magnanimous and not argue with Senior Sister Lan. Meng Qi smiled. Senior Sister Lan has a temper, but can't I have a temper? That disciple opened his mouth and wanted to speak, but found that he didn't know what to say. Well said. In the quiet main hall, a few crisp applause suddenly sounded. The Cool Breeze Valley disciples glared at the people who were clapping. The black-clothed youth, Chu Tianfeng, didn't care at all. Under everyone's gaze, he walked to Meng Qi's side. Everyone can have their own temper. You're right. Chu Tianfeng tilted his head and glanced at the Cool Breeze Valley disciples. I just wanted to remind you that when you're needed, you're a fellow disciple. When you're not needed, you're treated as a traitor. It's fine to not save such a person. Heavens! Young Palace Master Chu. Lu Qingran's face was pale. She stared blankly at Chu Tianfeng. First it was Zun Yang, and now it was Chu Tianfeng. And there was also Qin Xiumo. She didn't understand why these people were willing to stand on Meng Qi's side. Previously, when I wanted to save people, Senior Sister Lu said she could do it, but Senior Sister Lan said she didn't need me. Meng Qi continued. Her voice was as cold as her gaze. It was very pleasing to the ear, like a clear mountain stream with broken jade and flowing pearls. We've already hunted the 5 elements green crane, so what happened next would be much easier. But Senior Sister Lu made the situation very complicated. Shouldn't she bear the consequences of things becoming like this? Lu Qingran's palm-sized face instantly turned deathly pale. She opened her mouth and murmured, I'm not. I also want to save them. Qin Xiumo, who had never left Meng Qi's side, sneered. Do you think that you can do it and thinking that you want to be the same thing? What you actually did was almost kill them. Write it, an IOU. Qin Xiumo raised his chin. Or do you intend to watch these fellow disciples who trusted you painfully become flower pots for the divine devouring vines because of your irresponsibility and blind confidence? F***ck, this guy is too ruthless. Chu Tianfeng couldn't help but look at Qin Xiumo. Every word of his was simply heart-wrenching. Only he could say something like becoming a flower pot for the divine devouring vines. Lu Qingran's face turned even paler. She stared at Qin Xiumo in a daze, then looked at Meng Qi. Of course, you can also ignore their lives. Anyway, as the sect leader's beloved disciple, it's very difficult for you to be the one injured. At the camp, you clearly weren't sure if you could cure them, but you insisted on questioning Meng Qi at that time and stopping Meng Qi from treating them. Wasn't it because you were the one injured by the divine devouring vines and would become a flower pot for nourishment if you weren't careful? Qin Xiumo looked at the surrounding Cool Breeze Valley disciples lazily and said. His title of Little Demon Lord was not an undeserved reputation. After experiencing the betrayal of his close friend and the abandonment of his sect, Qin Xiumo was heartless and extreme in his actions. But often, the tip of his sword was pointed at everyone's most fatal spot. Chu Tianfeng almost laughed out loud. King Flower Pot. Ruthless. Really too ruthless. As soon as Qin Xiumo said these words, the expressions of the Cool Breeze Valley disciples, who were standing on Lu Qingran's side and helping her, all changed. His words not only pierced Lu Qingran's heart. Every word and sentence pierced into the hearts of these disciples. That's right, as the sect leader's most valued disciple, Lu Qingran had always been well protected. Even if this happened, it was very difficult for her to be the one injured. But it was different for them. The disciples looked at their fellow disciples who were lying on the ground and didn't know if they could survive. They were lucky this time. Maybe next time, the ones lying on the ground would be them. They thought that they might become nourishment for the divine devouring vines and become a flower pot for them. Those disciples couldn't help but shiver. Chu Tianfeng held back his laughter and stood beside Qin Xiumo with a cold face. The two of them had a tacit understanding and protected Meng Qi behind them. Lu Qingran stood in a daze for a moment and turned to look at her master. Also, she was suddenly shocked. Why did the gazes of those fellow disciples become so strange? Lu Qingran held the bamboo slip and stood in a daze for a while. Until finally a Cool Breeze Valley disciple couldn't hold it in any longer as he opened his mouth and said softly, I think is right. That day Junior Sister Meng Qi really wanted to save her, but Junior Sister Lu refused to let her save her, and Senior Sister Lan also refused to let Junior Sister Meng save her. In the end, Junior Sister Meng had no choice but to save the Burning Sky Palace disciples. Is Senior Sister Lan stupid? Why didn't she let them save them? Junior Sister Meng could even cure young Palace Master Chu. Maybe Junior Sister Lu and Senior Sister Lan said something in advance. Another disciple whispered, I also think it's quite strange. I heard that Senior Sister Lu likes young Palace Master Chu. Could it be that she's jealous and purposely wants to embarrass Junior Sister Meng? If that's the case, then it's too much. Does she really not care about the lives of us ordinary disciples? She already said it. Anyway, she's not the one who changed the flower pot. The whispers grew louder and louder. Qin Xiumo had just called it a flower pot, which was really too stimulating for everyone. Even if the sect master was here, they couldn't control themselves. No one wanted to be a sacrifice, especially a sacrifice with such a tragic end. Junior sister Lu. Lan Zhuxian, who was lying on the ground, suddenly raised her upper body with all her might. She stared at Lu Qingran with her eyes wide open, and her voice was hoarse with unspeakable resentment. You lied to me. You clearly said that you found a way to cure me. I trusted you so much, but you lied to me. I didn't lie to you. Lu Qingran's face instantly became even paler. It's true, senior sister Lan. I didn't lie to you. Believe me. You lied to me. You liar. You complained to me that you didn't know what Meng Qi did to young Palace Master Chu, and he ignored you. You're so cruel. You actually want to sacrifice so many of us just to spite Meng Qi. Lan Zhuxian screamed hoarsely. She didn't want to experience the terrifying feeling of her internal organs being twisted into a ball, and it was so painful that even breathing was wrong. Lan Zhuxian turned around and tried to crawl toward Meng Qi. Junior sister Meng. She hugged Meng Qi's leg and looked up at her desperately. Please save me. I apologize to you and kowtow to you. Please forgive your senior sister. I beg you, please save me. Meng Qi. Qin Xiaomo asked softly, are the divine devouring vines still in their bodies? Or can they turn into flower pots? Lan Zhuxian's breathing became even more rapid. She hugged Meng Qi in horror and used all her strength to nod her head on the ground. Junior sister. A teardrop fell from the corner of Lan Zhuxian's eye. Please, save me. I won't dare to go against you in the future. Please, forgive me and save me. Junior sister Lu. A disciple quickly walked out of the crowd and bent over to help his injured good friend. He looked up, his eyes almost spitting fire. It's already like this. Are you still not willing to do something small to make up for your mistakes? Or do you not care about the life and death of your fellow disciples at all? Chu Tianfeng curled his lips. He looked warily at Lu Qingran, who was desperately trying to explain it wasn't me with tears flowing down her face. Qin Xiaomo turned around and looked over. The two of them quickly exchanged a look. The Burning Heaven Palace came here to help Cool Breeze Valley survive this crisis. Originally, the Burning Heaven Palace had already decided to take Cool Breeze Valley under their wing. Chu Tianfeng suddenly said, however, everyone saw what happened during this period. It made me and Elder Zun Yang very disappointed. The Cool Breeze Valley Master's face paled. She had already guessed what Chu Tianfeng was going to do, but she couldn't stop him at all. Not to mention that Chu Tianfeng's cultivation was only 2 or 3 small realms lower than hers. The Burning Heaven Palace behind him and the nascent soul Elder Zunyang weren't people she could deal with. Therefore, even though she knew what the other party was going to say, the Cool Breeze Valley Master could only watch as Chu Tianfeng continued to speak. However, if the Cool Breeze Valley disciples are willing to submit to the Burning Heaven Palace, we will make the appropriate arrangements for everyone. I'm willing. I want to join the Burning Heaven Palace. Bah. I've had enough of this place. I announce that I'm leaving Cool Breeze Valley. Please take me in, young Palace Master Chu. The hall was instantly thrown into chaos. Meng Qi looked at the scene in front of him in a daze. Cool Breeze Valley was a small sect and had never been truly glorious. However, the sect had been established for hundreds of years, almost 1,000 years. Did it really fall apart overnight? Did the people scatter after the tree fell? After a while, Meng Qi lowered his eyelids and took out a small jade pendant from his storage bag. He held it with both hands and respectfully presented it to the Cool Breeze Valley Master. This disciple will heal these injured senior brothers and sisters. From now on, they are no longer disciples of Cool Breeze Valley. The Cool Breeze Valley Master pursed her lips tightly. She tightened her jaw and took the small jade pendant from Meng Qi's hands. The sect master looked at Meng Qi's elegant and serious face. She wanted to say something, but in the end, she just let out a long sigh. She waved her hand and said hoarsely, "Thank you, Meng. Fellow Daoist Meng." In the hall, people kept taking out their sect's jade pendants and throwing them on the ground. She was powerless to stop it, and she couldn't stop it. Meng Qi nodded at her, then turned and walked toward the injured disciples. There was still a lot of noise behind her, but it didn't seem to affect her. Meng Qi bent down and patiently checked the injured disciples' bodies one by one. The Cool Breeze Valley Master looked at this scene quietly. Elder Zunyang's words that day seemed to ring in her ears again. So, did I really do something wrong? Is the Cool Breeze Valley really going to be destroyed in my hands just like that? Meng Qi quickly finished checking the last disciple. She stood up hesitantly, frowning slightly. The situation was more complicated than she had imagined. Not only were the divine devouring vine sprouts in these disciples' bodies not removed, but they also had a strange power. What is this? Meng Qi wanted to turn around and ask Lu Qingran how she had treated these disciples that day. However, only the angry Cool Breeze Valley disciples were left in the hall. The sect master stood rooted to the ground in a daze, while Lu Qingran disappeared. Meng Qi looked around. Qin Shemo walked to her side. Is it very troublesome? A little. Meng Qi nodded. Don't worry, Qin Shemo said as he handed her a bamboo slip. Lu Qingran's IOU. Keep it well. Meng Qi, you really want to save them? He lowered his head and looked at those disciples. They're just a group of Foundation establishment cultivators. Their talents are mediocre. He grinned. Why bother? Chapter 40. As Qin Shemo spoke, he glanced meaningfully at Lan Zhuxian, who was lying on the ground. He continued nonchalantly, especially her. How did she treat you just now? So what if she's dead? His voice was not soft, and his tone was indifferent as if he was talking about the good weather today. In the main hall of Cool Breeze Valley, the disciples standing closer to him could hear him clearly. Especially those disciples who were injured by the divine devouring vines and lying on the ground. When they heard that, they all looked up at Meng Qi in a panic. Lan Zhuxian, who was the closest to him, was trembling all over. Junior sister Meng Qi. She trembled and grabbed the corner of Meng Qi's robe tightly. It was all my fault just now. Please forgive me. Lan Zhuxian was really scared. When her injuries relapsed just now, she felt as if her organs were being tightened by countless thin ropes. She was in so much pain that her scalp went numb. She felt as if she was breathing in tiny blades that were cutting every inch of her flesh and blood. The intense pain completely exceeded Lan Zhuxian's imagination. She felt that if she lived for another moment, she would be driven crazy by the pain. Even though the sect master and Elder Lu gave her medicine to suppress the terrible pain, she still felt uncomfortable all over. It was as if the tightened rope had loosened slightly and was no longer forcefully sinking into her flesh and blood. However, when she became slightly more conscious, the pain became even more obvious. It came like a tidal wave. No one knew if they would fall into the terrifying 18 levels of hell in the next moment. Only when Meng Qi gave them 2 more pills did they manage to suppress the pain to a tolerable level. The more conscious Lan Zhuxian was now, the more afraid she was of falling into that terrible and overwhelming pain again. She trembled and grabbed the corner of Meng Qi's robe tightly. She begged in a hoarse voice, "Junior sister Meng Qi, please, save us. I'm so sorry. You can hit me or scold me. Save us. Junior sister Meng Qi, please." Those injured disciples all looked at Meng Qi and begged. "Save us. Junior sister Meng, we'll do anything for you in the future. Please save us. Please, junior sister Meng Qi." The sounds of pleading rose and fell. The agitated Cool Breeze Valley disciples who wanted to withdraw from the sect all quieted down. Everyone looked at Meng Qi nervously. They weren't the ones who were injured, but they could empathize with them. If it weren't for their good luck, they might have been the ones lying on the ground begging for death. Everyone became nervous. Qin Shemo's lips curled up. However, everyone's attention in the hall was drawn to Meng Qi because of his words. No one saw the faint smile that flashed through his eyes. "Meng Qi, they don't believe you. They insult you, scold you, and even treat you as a traitor." Qin Shemo said lazily, "Do you really want to repay evil with good? Do you really want to waste time and energy saving them?" His voice was low, and it clearly reached the ears of every Cool Breeze Valley disciple in the hall. Every word Qin Shomor said was to remind these people how they treated Meng Qi before. Every time he reminded them, they would realize more clearly how good it was that Meng Qi was still willing to save them. Qin Shomor knew that Meng Qi wouldn't care about these things. This guy was obsessed with medical skills, and his personality was too cold. She didn't know how to say a lot of things herself. Qin Shomor even felt that Meng Qi was sometimes afraid of these troubles. She didn't enjoy others' gratitude. All her happiness and joy came from curing people or the satisfaction brought by the improvement of her medical skills. But it didn't matter. He didn't mind being the bad guy and doing these things for her that she was too lazy to care about. If you can save them, then save them. Sure enough, Meng Qi said casually after a moment of silence. All right. Qin Shomor shrugged. I can only waste a few more days for this group of trash. Qin Shomor's tone was sharp, and none of the Cool Breeze Valley disciples dared to refute. The other party was a genius cultivator who successfully formed his gold core at a young age. It was said that if it wasn't for his qi deviation, he would have already reached the peak stage of Jindan and had one foot in the nascent soul stage. This was something that even the Cool Breeze Valley's sect master couldn't do. Even if he had qi deviation, their sect master was no match for him now. With the power of Qin Shomor's sword, the sect master could barely deflect it with a magic weapon. No matter how harsh his words were, they didn't dare to say anything in front of absolute power. Even Lan Zhuxuan's small face turned pale, and she silently lowered her head. In comparison, the Cool Breeze Valley disciples instantly felt that Meng Qi was really too good and too kind. Not only did she not care about everyone's rudeness to her before, but she also didn't say anything sarcastic. What she said just now was a temper that any normal person would have. The Cool Breeze Valley disciples asked themselves, if they were in Meng Qi's shoes, they might have come back to see everyone's miserable state, felt satisfied, and then turned to leave. They definitely wouldn't save these people who insulted them. Junior Martial Sister Meng Qi was actually willing to save people for just a few spirit stones. Really, she was too kind, too good. The Cool Breeze Valley disciples' gazes towards Meng Qi quietly changed. No wonder Elder Yang, the most eccentric and indifferent person in the sect, who didn't even spare a glance for the sect master's beloved disciple Lu Qingran, appreciated her so much. Only Junior Martial Sister Meng Qi deserved the praise of Elder Yang, who even Elder Zun Yang of Burning Sky Palace respected. Meng Qi didn't find anything wrong with Qin Shomor's words. The little demon lord in her memory was even more arrogant and ruthless than the current Qin Shomor. He looked down on the Cool Breeze Valley disciples, treating them like ants. It was only natural. Meng Qi couldn't even be bothered to argue with Qin Shomor. She directly knelt on one knee and pressed her hand on Lan Zhuxuan's wrist. There was a faint light on the fingertips of her right hand, and it went all the way up her arm. Huh! Meng Qi was stunned. How did Senior Martial Sister Lu treat you just now? Lan Zhuxian recalled. She said she could directly kill the divine devouring vine and gave each of us a pill. Then, she sealed a spell in our bodies. Junior Martial Sister Meng. She nervously grabbed Meng Qi's wrist. Is there a problem? Meng Qi pondered. It's a bit like demonic aura. Demonic aura? Lan Zhuxian repeated. The surrounding Cool Breeze Valley disciples also looked at each other in surprise. Demonic aura? Lu Qingran has dealings with fiendish cultivators or demons. Is she trying to kill her fellow disciples? I remember that last time, she and young palatial Master Chu encountered demons outside. She was fine, but she fainted from fright. However, young palatial Master Chu was poisoned and injured. Could it be that she already had dealings with demons at that time? Yes. I also heard that the first thing she wanted to do when she woke up was to accuse Junior Martial Sister Meng of knowing demons. Luckily, young palatial Master Chu stood on Junior Martial Sister Meng's side and proved her innocence. Otherwise, Junior Martial Sister Meng would have been in trouble. Nonsense. Young palatial Master Chu was saved by Junior Martial Sister Meng. Of course, she can tell the difference. Did anyone see Lu Qingran? Where did she go? Damn it. She couldn't have run away because she felt guilty, right? Of course. Gosh, we are actually in the same sect as someone who colludes with demons, and the sect master doesn't even realize it. He dotes on her so much. This sect can't be good. I originally thought that I still had feelings for the sect and was hesitating whether to leave or not, but now I don't. Me too. In an instant, many of the disciples who were hesitating whether or not to leave Cool Breeze Valley threw the sect's jade tablet on the ground. The Cool Breeze Valley sect master closed her eyes and could only helplessly watch all of this happen in silence. Although the sect's foundation had been established for nearly 1,000 years, there had never been a powerhouse. But from the first day she became the sect master, she had been cautious and conscientious and had never slacked off. Although she favored her disciple Lu Qingran a bit, she could be considered fair to other disciples. In the sect, she had never used her power to oppress others and almost never punished her disciples. Why? Why was everyone so dissatisfied with her? The sect master stared numbly at the jade tablet on the ground. Cool Breeze Valley was only a small sect, and these disciples' talents were limited. Most of them came for the medical cultivation sect and didn't have any expectations of cultivating the great Tao or ascending. They just wanted to have a skill to rely on and live peacefully in these 3,000 worlds. But now, they couldn't stay any longer. Was it really time for Cool Breeze Valley to disperse? Fellow Day Oist. Zun Yang slowly walked to the Cool Breeze Valley sect master's side. Elder Zun. The sect master returned the greeting. I have something to say to fellow Day Oist. Zun Yang sighed softly. You're a medical cultivator, so you should know that mercy and kindness should never be indulgence. If a patient doesn't follow a medical cultivator's instructions and a medical cultivator doesn't care and just lets them be happy, that's hypocrisy. Zun Yang paused and said, as the sect master, if you don't restrain your disciples and don't punish disciples who deserve to be punished, it's like a medical cultivator not restraining a patient. That's also hypocrisy. Good medicine tastes bitter, but honest advice grates on the ear. The sect doesn't have any restraints, doesn't know reverence, and doesn't follow the great Tao. All day long, it will disperse sooner or later. The Cool Breeze Valley sect master's body shook. This was the second time Zun Yang had said something like this to her. Last time, he was full of anger and was very rude. This time, his tone was gentle, but it made the Cool Breeze Valley sect master feel even more ashamed. Zun Yang had said all he wanted to say. He cupped his hands towards the sect master. Fellow Day Oist, please take care of yourself. This was already all he could do for the sake of Yang Mingfeng and Meng Qi. As an elder of the Burning Sky Palace, Zun Yang really didn't care about such a small sect. After saying this, he no longer looked at the sect master and looked at Meng Qi with his hands behind his back. There, Chu Tianfeng and Qin Shimo were guarding Meng Qi. The two of them looked at her nervously as she checked Lan Zhuxuan's body again. They hurriedly asked, Demonic Qi, are you sure? I'm not sure. Meng Qi shook her head. Because that cultivation art has become weaker and weaker, and it's mixed with the divine devouring vines in their bodies. I can't distinguish it. But this way, it'll be easier to cure them. She said to Chu Tianfeng, give me the remaining 5 elements green crane. Oh. Chu Tianfeng heard this and slowly took out the 5 elements green crane's huge body from his storage bag. This thing is also something that we helped to kill, right? Yes. Meng Qi nodded. I have no objections if you give it to the disciples of the Burning Sky Palace, Chu Tianfeng said leisurely. But if you give it to them, he glanced at the Cool Breeze Valley disciples. I want to collect money. Yes, I want it too. Qin Shimo also nodded. Meng Qi, Lan Zhuxian, the injured Cool Breeze Valley disciples, the other Cool Breeze Valley disciples in the main hall, even Zun Yang choked. Who did the young palace master learn this from? Then he looked at Meng Qi, who was standing there, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Besides this girl, there was no one else. You, do as you please. Meng Qi was a big collector of spirit stones, so she couldn't say much. I guess they can't take out many spirit stones. Qin Shimo's eyes flashed. Let them be coolies. Let them pick the cold sky grass under the cold pond. Why novel? The disciples shrank back again, but none of them objected. Although the cold pond was bone-chilling, Foundation establishment cultivators could still barely stay down for an hour with the help of Chun Yuan. It would be fine if it was Junior Marshall's sister Meng who spoke, but these two people looked very scary. They were probably very powerful. Being coolies was better than owing spirit stones that they couldn't repay in their lifetime. Meng Qi couldn't be bothered with them. She found it troublesome before because there was a strange and powerful spell in these people's bodies causing trouble. Now that the spell was gradually weakening and disappearing, it was easy for her to treat them. After spending about half a day, Meng Qi healed the injuries of the Cool Breeze Valley disciples one by one. Qin Xiumor waited for these people to recover, then he really drove them to the cold pond to pick a lot of cold sky grass. Chu Tianfeng didn't let them stay idle either. He asked Elder Lu of Cool Breeze Valley for these people to pick a lot of spirit herbs and spirit flowers from the surroundings. Then he tidied them up and put them away. Meng Qi hadn't left Cool Breeze Valley yet. After Elder Yang came back, he went into seclusion at the cold pond. Even if she wanted to leave, she would have to say goodbye to Elder Yang before leaving. On Cool Breeze Valley, many disciples had already left the mountain. Some of them planned to leave with Burning Heaven Palace, and were taken into some of Burning Heaven Palace's subordinate sects. Some went straight down the mountain to go home, planning to live the rest of their lives like this. There were also disciples who had been in the sect for a long time who continued to stay in Cool Breeze Valley. But after this incident, Cool Breeze Valley became much more desolate. In the past, after the disciples finished their morning classes, the sect would be lively. But now, there was often no one to be seen for half a day. On the 5th day after she returned to Cool Breeze Valley, Meng Qi finally finished preparing the last material needed for the formation. She set up a protective formation around her room, then closed the doors and windows, and started to draw the formation in the room. This was a new formation that Meng Qi's teacher had spent many months to combine several formations into one, and specially designed for her. Drawing the formation required a lot of materials. The small formations and the big ones overlapped and were extremely complicated. Meng Qi spent 2 hours and finally drew the formation based on her memory. She wiped the sweat from her forehead and couldn't help but stand outside the formation, tilting her head to admire the entire formation. Now, she only wanted to advance from Qi refinement to foundation establishment, and the spirit energy she needed wasn't particularly much. The materials used to draw the formation weren't the best. In the future, as her cultivation level increased, she wanted to use this formation to refine the spirit energy in the spirit stones to advance her own cultivation level. The requirements of the materials needed would become higher and higher. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to withstand and accommodate the impact of the huge amount of spirit energy. Let's begin. Meng Qi took out a handful of 8th grade spirit stones from her storage bag and inserted them into the formation with a flick of her finger. The originally dark room gradually became brighter. Little Qi, who was lying lazily on the bed, opened its eyes and looked over in surprise. The little white tiger's ears suddenly pricked up, and it raised its upper body. As calm as it was, its azure blue eyes were instantly filled with surprise that it couldn't hide in time. Wasn't this the star formation of the Sky Demon White Tiger clan? Little Qi suddenly looked up and shot a sharp gaze at the girl whose back was facing it. This Meng Qi, who exactly was she? You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.